Welcome back, esports fans. Skillfrost here with ZP and Hex. Once again, we just got done watching our first look at Bastion, and it might not be as nearly as exciting as we thought it would be. But Team Liquid and Complexity faced off, and Complexity came out on top. Now I'm very excited to see two other teams take on the newest patch, and that is going to be Hammers Esports facing off against Immortals. So before we head into the rosters, do you have any high-level thoughts on this matchup?
Well, it's a rematch of other night's OMM, but that match comes with an asterisk, of course, as Ethan was unable to participate in that, and when you lose someone as important as your Ana player, you're going to struggle.
Right, both these teams matched up in the lower bracket final of the Overwatch Monthly Melee. It was very close, but as mentioned, it was not the true Immortals team. Immortals, really a bit of bad luck over the weekend, where first they lose Hype for a while, then, of course, Ethan has a family emergency that goes on. So we'll see if we get the full Immortals team here tonight. I believe we will get the full Immortals team here tonight, and we'll see what goes down. But one thing that's very clear is that Immortals and Hammers are very close. They've given us some very great matches in recent times, and I wouldn't expect this to really be any different, although with the new patch, it does create a few curveballs.
Yes, and while Immortals are coming into this one 1-1, while Hammers, they're sitting on a solid 3-0, they're definitely much closer than those numbers lead us to believe. Well, let's take a look actually at the roster, because it should be all of Immortals coming in here. I think they did all their speed tests and checks beforehand, and they're all here and ready to go. And let's take a look. Grim Reality, definitely going to be looking at him on McCree, but Nami, Agility, Hypes, Ethan, and Verbo, they've all shown outstanding performances in the past, and we have no reason to believe anything but that coming into this one. But what are we looking to see from them?
Well, I think for me, when I look at Immortals, I do want to see, are they going to try Bastion based on all the hype coming into that patch? Clearly, if you look at the last series, you can say that perhaps the Omnic Crisis was overblown. Now, I'm not going to make a judgment, though, just off only two teams. Immortals was known to try new things out. Maybe we do see Grim Reality coming in on Bastion. I don't know. I want to see how they adapt to some of the changes in this patch. How much are they going to run Roadhog here? Do they see it a little bit more in their compositions? These are the questions I want answered.
Moreover, that if they do run Grim Reality on the Bastion, it opens things up that Hyped can run the D.Va, as we've seen D.Va's both a complementary piece of a Bastion composition and also part of the answer to a Bastion composition. And I know I talk about Hype playing D.Va a lot, but he's a very, very good D.Va, one of the originators of that hero. So if they don't go to Bastion, though, I still have that same question about Hyped of can they run triple DPS? I think they've tried it too often, especially on control maps where they might be better served just to run the 2-2-2, give yourself over to flex tanks, and keep your room open for Grim Reality to do what Grim Reality does best.
And they're going to need him to do that. And he is actually our player to watch for Immortals, the first repeated player to watch. And I think that's because he is such an important cog in this Immortals machine. ZP, what are your thoughts on Grim Reality coming into this match?
I think Grim Reality in recent times has gotten a lot of practice running, because there have been teams that have been going out of their way to dive him to the depths of hell and back. So clearly people have gotten this idea that, well, you go against Immortals, find a way of taking away Grim Reality, and then maybe you will succeed. Of course, the problem with Immortals is that they do have many good players, so if you do invest on Grim Reality, you leave open the possibility of someone like Agility's coming in and punishing you for going that deep in.
Yeah, the key is that they're going to have both of those threats, providing a threat, if they're going to come out victorious against this very strong Hammers Esports team. Let's take a look at Hammers Esports. In that case, this is their roster. We got Super and Vol on the tank line. We have seen Vol flex into DPS here and there as well. Jake, Train, they all actually can play some pretty damagey characters. And of course, in the past known for their 4 tank compositions, which they are still very comfortable playing. And then Avast and Rob 420 holding things down in the back line, healing them up. So, ZP, what are your thoughts on Hammers coming into this matchup?
Well, Hammers coming into this matchup, they are one of the most versatile teams that we have in the OCS. They proved that not only in week 1 of play, but they also proved that in the OMM this weekend. And again, for me, I have patch on the brain. It is the patch day. It's where you get to see new things. And I do wonder if we are going to be seeing a team come out with a new Bastion strategy that works out well. Why not Hammers? They've proven that they can play everything. Why not find a way of making this work?
which one of their 6 DPS players will play the Bastion, I suppose, is the question. I completely agree. Their versatility, we can't say enough about it because they can run several different compositions. Everyone runs a different hero. Beyond that, they run different compositions on different maps. So you can't prepare for them saying, let's go into King's Road. This is what the Hammers team does. Hammers could run the 4 tank very well. They've reverted to that when they had to play Rogue. They can run 4 DPS. They can run 3 DPS. They can run 2-2-2. Any combination of numbers that add up to 6, this Hammers team can run it.
I will note, though, that if there's a tell to that is that when they do revert to 4 tank, that's usually the last card in their deck.
Right.
Once they've gone to 4 tank, they're showing you their best last hand. And if you can beat that, they don't usually have another response they can come out with.
That's the one thing that's been consistent because, yeah, they've shown success on very, very many options. Well, taking a look at the player to watch here for Hammers Esports, if Grim Reality is that player that has seen people diving onto him, trying to focus him down, his counterpart on Hammers is going to be Jake. We saw Jake yesterday, who has played Genji extraordinarily well, being focused down a lot by Winston's. I think Spree was playing Winston, trying to shut him down, and he didn't see nearly as much success yesterday. They are still 3-0, so enough success apparently. But what are we expecting out of Jake coming into this one there, Hex?
I think when teams are focusing down Jake, it is up to the other players on his team to pick it up. And there was clearly a focus on Jake. One of the problems with his Genji is you're running into not only Spree on Winston sometime, but Spree is a top tier Zarya. And Zarya against Genji is a matchup that Spree's going to win because Spree's notable on his Zarya for his tracking on Zarya. And Genji's can be difficult for some Zaryas because they're jumping around all over the place. Not the case for Spree.
So when I think about Jake, there's upside and downside. The upside is that when he gets deep into a team fight, he can be very explosive, and we've seen him get 3-4 kills reliably in multiple team fights in a row. And yet we've seen the dark side of Jake, where Jake will go in and just get bopped first. And it'll happen multiple fights in a row, and we'll sit here going, where did Jake go? I don't know where Jake went. He just died first in 4 fights in a row. So it does matter the quality opponent. Obviously, that happened to Jake more going against a team like Rogue in the Overwatch Monthly Melee, but it's not a flawless, perfect Genji. You definitely can keep him a little bit off guard.
It will be interesting to see if they run the Genji in a more tank-focused composition, because I think, to your point, a lot of the times when he was dying first is when they're running 4 DPS, and he has to be one of the first through the fire, essentially. That's what a lot of Genjis are going in, so they can run the deflect. It's a momentary tanky ability while they allow their Winston get in and things like that. He could still find success if they run a couple of tanks, and he doesn't have to be the first through the door.
Yeah, and yeah, who else are you going to send in 4 DPS? Maybe Tracer, but he's going to be one of the ones that's the most likely to live, and not always going to be the case. It looks like we will be going to Hollywood first map, so I've got good news for you, ZP. So it's going to be sunny weather, unlike it has been in, well, I mean, I guess it's been sunny in Denver.
Denver
and
has
also
no
snowing
idea.
at the same time.
Denver is the Luminosity Gaming of weather areas in the United States because Denver has no idea what it wants to be. It can be 70 degrees out with snow on the ground. You just sit there going, what are you doing? Clearly, the Rocky Mountains are indecisive at best.
Well, the weather's different when you're living inside a different level of atmosphere. At ground level, this would be just regular weather, but we're literally living in Sky City.
Yeah. 5280. That's Mile High City right here. Well, anyway, and it looks like we're about ready to go into map. Hollywood, though, let's just break it down for me. Immortals selected this map, and we've talked a lot about Immortals on Hollywood. Do you think they've shored up some of their issues on second?
Go ahead.
Maybe. The answer is very clearly maybe. If you go off their history, it still doesn't make great sense for them to go here in this situation, particularly in Hammers has done pretty well in Hollywood. So
you know what? It actually was Hammer's selection.
Okay, that makes far more sense. Now everything.
Okay, now it's all coming together.
Now it makes perfect sense
because
Immortal struggles on Hollywood. Hammers does well here. So yes, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, in that case, I feel a lot better. Well, gentlemen, we're going into match number 2 here on this wonderful Tuesday in lovely Hollywood. Take us into Goldshire Studios.
Goldshire Studios. You know, I hear their budget is failing nowadays. They spend way too much on getting guys in a limo safely to the production lot.
Well, we perhaps aspire to be those guys in limos one day, and you know, you got to take care of your top-end talent, golden parachutes, all that, hover cars that say, I'm rich. If you've ever been in a limo, it's a wonderful experience, even if you can barely afford it.
Limos are pretty great. That's why you save up for prom and go in there, and then you realize that the rest of your life is probably not going to be in limos, so it's a little bit of a tease. Either way, take a look here at this defense coming out here from the 7 Immortals. The Omnic Crisis is not happening. There is no Bastion in sight.
Well, Jake is running the Bastion on attack, so it's possible. Again, Jake runs every single hero in the game and runs them all rather effectively, so it wouldn't really surprise me. What surprised me a little bit is that Immortals is setting up in somewhat of an aggressive nature. Not the full-on spawn camp, but yes, this Bastion is happening.
So Hammers, this doesn't surprise me. We know Hammers and how versatile they are. Of course, they're going to give this a whirl here early on.
Very aggressive.
We'll see if it's effective, but take a look at Grim. Grim is really far out here, almost on island. He actually has to get back to his team, but they catch super off guard with the flank. He goes down early to hyped, and Immortals perhaps taking a page out of Selfless's book here.
And I spoke the other day about how Immortals runs a very standard style, very standard compositions. Not the case anymore. Adding another play to their playbook here is just running the super aggressive defense. We've seen this from several teams.
Do you think the aggressive defense can actually be a bit of a soft counter to the Bastion? Because if you have to go in the turret mode every time that you're getting aggressed upon, the defense is keeping you off guard and making you slow down. That said, we see the early tank kill going on there. Rob 420 getting that early kill, and it's 4 unanswered kills by Hammers. Immortals gets caught completely out of place.
You either want to hold right outside their spawn so that you can get back here perhaps and have another fight, or hold on the point. They went right in between and they got blown up there, not going to be able to get back here with any sort of real force.
And I think that's the case for Immortals, where they were probably just too far out and they didn't leave themselves room to retreat. They retreated right into the turret of Jake, and it led to Nomi dying immediately, and now Immortals just kind of throwing themselves in this badly, and this is where we criticize Immortals here in Hollywood, where they don't know when they can come back into a fight, and now what they've done is they've fed Hammers an enormous amount of ultimate.
Generally, we talk about them not being able to reestablish very well once they've lost first point, because that's usually one of their first fights. They're not able to reestablish once they've lost second. And look at the tank we're building here. Super up front. Jake on this limo, a turret on this limo. We are on an armored car.
The USS Hammers operational here. Forward shields are up. The blasters in the back powered by Jake. Oh, but there's the Earth Shatter coming in. That's going to ruin the entire ship. They just sunk the battleship, Hex, as Grim Reality coming in over the top with the last bit of final damage. Nanovisor doing its job.
Very entertaining while it lasted. I enjoy a good car modification, a good turret on top.
I mean, they tried to form Voltron. They just forgot the Blazing Sword.
Well, now it looks like Grim Reality is going to take the slow ride up on the elevator so he can take the high ground away. They are not giving up on this Bastion just yet, and why not? They do have a tank mode available to them as Jake's continues to stay on it. Super also has an Earth Shatter. They're going to rotate around right, trying to find the right angle for this Bastion. They're going to take the elevator up as well.
Well, they're on the elevator, and here comes Jake. He's a tank moving in here, tank form on the way, and he's going to run into the Reinhardt here. Not really getting much of anything done, immediately bopped out, and it's been a bad day to be a tank here, Hex, as Grim has another attack visor already coming in over the top. Doesn't have many targets here because Immortals just killed many of their competition, but you do see Hammers trying to come back in here somewhat unsuccessfully.
That fight was largely over when the attack visor came out. It was nearly wholly over when the Graviton came out, but they're still fighting. A very prolonged fight as Train trying to bring it back. Will take down Athan very early there. That's going to give them the small advantage of one support down at the very least. They will rotate over here for Jake is trying to cover the left entrance. A nice hook comes in, takes down Grim Reality, a big threat to Jake.
Train is one who's been busting this open here over the last little bit. He got several good kills. Now trying to get on the Lucio here, using that improved scrap cannon, but he's going to take a nap. Meanwhile, Jake dies to agilities once more. And yet, I don't know, Immortals didn't get on the point. They had a chance to contest this, and this time around, they don't do it. Hammer's going to keep this moving forward, and Hex, is Hammers winning because of Jake or in spite of Jake right now?
I think it's definitely well, not because of Jake. I confuse him with Train. It's definitely because of Train. Jake is not doing a whole lot, but he does present a target. Similar in the idea of running a Widow. You don't have to fire a shot. You can be a Bastion and not fire a shot, and you put so much fear into the heart of the other team. You become a priority target immediately without even doing much, and that's what they're still working towards. Jake still now poached up on the cart, trying to get some damage onto this Bastion. He's been shredding shields at the very least.
He has been applying pressure to the shields in between falling to pieces every time. Oh, no, gets charged back. Zarya shield gonna keep him alive though, so he's gonna be able to get out of there. But while this is going on, Immortals off of that Earth Shatter by Nomi cleans up 3 kills. And I'm not sold on this Bastion. I get that he's a decoy. I get that he can fall apart and be reassembled,
Yeah.
but this is...
I agree
at
with
what point
you.
do you swap here?
You know what has surprised me so much tonight of the Bastion play we've seen? He got changed in a lot of ways, but no one's utilizing the change. People are running him the exact same way he's been run since he was introduced in the game. Where is this improved recon mode coming out of?
Well, it's hard to see the improved recon mode because they're always in turret mode, getting
Right.
smashed against the wall. So we'll see where this goes. Defense, though, getting a chance to reestablish. Hyped, Graviton Surge about to be at the ready, and Jake is still in this Bastion, maybe just using it for one more tank mode. We will have to see, but both teams trading up some early poking. Agilities wins their hog-on-hog fight, finds Train early on. Offensive Graviton coming out lane to fight, and here comes Jake. Nano boosted tank, rolling into that gravity vortex. Has one, and has to backpedal up to go for Agilities here. I mean, it works out, but they're also not pushing the payload very much while this is going on.
Well, he got a recon mode kill, even though it was only 10 HP onto the Roadhog. I'm going to count it. Jake is going to try to get back here over and set up, trying to deny spawn. Shredding shields again onto Nomi, who's not had the best of game. Here comes a grab, though. Can they clean this up?
Well, the grab pulls in 3, but the follow-through is not there. Jake still alive in the turn in the back line, and this is probably the best contribution he's got as a Bastion here all game long. Able to be a big part of the contribution as Vol, Train, and Super clear off the remaining members of Immortals from this point. Immortals now in a bit of a rough spot in actually bringing this back, and they're not able to touch a cart once more. Hammers in what is an interesting offensive approach. Does finish out with a reasonably quick time here in Hollywood.
Well, a lot of the theory was with newly
very mixed thoughts here, because even though they were able to get through relatively quickly, it still feels like it was inspired the Bastion. I'm not saying Jake was playing badly, playing well, or otherwise. I'm blaming this more on the hero in this case, and it felt like when they were getting things done, it's just Train was having a great time with things. Train was able to get to the back line, get good pickoffs early on. It was good frontline play from Hammers. Not really convinced the Bastion played a gigantic role in it.
I would tend to agree, but Hammers, knowing them, may just want to bust it out just to have teams have to prepare for it. Just another trick in their book that teams aren't sure if they're going to run it. Make teams prepare for everything so that when you do decide to run whatever you want, they're less prepared for that.
Well, of course, we are on sunny Hollywood. Those are palm trees, probably real palm trees, though you never know. Lots of things are fake in Hollywood, Hex.
Thanks for the life lesson. I will make sure to write that down. Should I visit Hollywood in the coming future? Some hiding in some bushes there. You see anything out of the ordinary for either side here, ZP?
Well, I'm not seeing a Bastion in play from either side. Hammer's definitely going with a more traditional defense here. It's going to be Super on the Reinhardt, Vol on the Roadhog. But it's more 2-2-2 because you have Jake and Train on DPS, Avast and Rob on support. So they're going with a more balanced approach here. Offensively, there's going to be a lot of pressure from Immortals to get in with Agilities or the top. They're running the Mercy as support, which means they're investing proportionally more into Agilities.
Well, Hammers is a team that will spawn camp you if given the chance, so Immortals has to be well aware of that as they come out. But it is Hammers who is not going to be the ones holding as far forward as Immortals was. But although I spoke too soon, Vol finds a flying Agilities, and that is the go button.
Vol just sitting there, finds his prey, and just like that, Hammer's able to push back Immortals. Now, I don't think they want to go straight to the spawn door here. We haven't really seen teams take it that far yet. I think this green Jeep here in the back is about as far as they want to go. Is that a Jeep? I don't think so. I'm bad with cars.
Some sort of terrain vehicle. It's got a cow catcher on the front. Looks like a roll bar. I'll allow it. They are still going to hold up here where Immortals held on their defense as well. Not quite as aggressive as the very front door, but if they get a pick, imagine they will jump down and try to get it again. They are trying to segment off the Soldier 76 up top here, see if they can catch him. But the sprint, as we've seen over the last several days, very powerful. He's able to escape.
Well, the key here from how Hammers is positioning is that they're making Immortals have to go to this top side to actually deal with this. They don't get to the archway particularly freely, and Jake off the flank finds Grim Reality, so they are basically outflanking Immortals here, and Immortals can't even find room to breathe.
They don't exactly know where to attack because Hammers are attacking from every side. The initiating kill has always been from Volda, who has hit a couple of nice hooks on Agilities actually twice, once on Pharah, once on Agility's own Roadhog. But right now, look at the ults they've built up from winning these fights. They're probably going to hold forward, and they're going to have the ultimates to do it. This is frustrating for Immortals.
It absolutely is frustrating because now they're going to have to burn these ultimates at Junk Rush at some point to even consider getting the first in Super. Going really far in, but why not? Jake has the backup. Nano Visor from the back immediately removes Grim Reality. That's all it's going to take. But 2 ultimates for arguably the most important player in Immortals, not the worst. Agilities, though, going to turn the tides on the Super, and now I think Hammers might have overextended just a bit here. This is maybe going their way, but it's very close.
Maybe. They still want to fight, though. Vol with another late kill onto Nomi. That is hyped going down to Jake. Grim Reality is out in no man's land as a McCree. Not exactly where you want to be. He's going to try to trade out. Agilities, meanwhile, takes out Jake and Train while that chase was on.
Now, here's the problem for Hammers, that while it was effective for a long time, now they're going to be staggered coming back in onto this point, and we've seen teams have a pretty dubious record of getting back on the point A unscathed. We'll see if this works out for Super. Gets hooked in and annihilated immediately. He had Earth Shatter. He was the one quick way they could bring this back. Immortals punishing Hammers for their early aggression.
He can't go for the Fire Strike there. It opens you up for that hook. He needed to get in there with the slow push, let his team come in. That was their only chance. Regardless, they ran the same strategy, both sides did, on defense, and Hammers was much more effective.
Hammers had a period of dominance there for holding very far up, and they was just Immortals getting outflanked. Immortals was going up a 6, going, we'll start at the archway. Well, they didn't even get to the archway until the push had won them everything at this point.
Hammers are likely going to hold around this bend, and that is twice that Super has gone down alone up front with Earth Shatter in his pocket. You can't let that happen.
No, you can't, and now Super down. He's a big part. It's going to be up to Jake to try and pull this back with Attack Visor. Doesn't have a nano boost to go with it, so he just immediately dies. Gets too aggressive. I think he forgot he wasn't glowing electric blue there.
Well, he also didn't have a shield to hide behind because Super had gone down so early. Now the cleanup very easy for Immortals. Immortals war chest fully stocked. Everyone has ultimate. Grim Reality going for the highest of noons as he takes the slow elevator up.
This is very dangerous here for Hammers. They have Jake swapping off the Genji. He's not going to have Dragon Blade anytime soon. They're going to have to make the most of Earth Shatter and Sound Barrier, but they're running into a blunder here. Immortals well stocked for this next fight. As hyped, gotta think he's going to be dropping this Graviton soon. They might not even need to, though, because Vol gets picked off. Agilities has been lightning accurate with these hooks, and he's been really keeping Immortals on a good pace.
I love how aggressive Super is. Normally, it might be time to dial it back from 11 to 10 or even lower because he has died so early in every one of these fights. Again, just like their offense, Train is their only standout player, the only one really getting a lot of kills in here. Super will roll out with the rest of his team. Here comes the Deadeye. Gets hooked into it though, but still alive, Electric Cowboy.
That is not what you want as a Roadhog. You think you're getting a great McCree pickoff, and then instead he glows blue and takes you out. And now for Immortals, they're getting pushed back a little bit here, but they can turn this back around. Hammers has to be very careful. They already lost their Roadhog. If they get too aggressive, Grim is going to punish them horribly. And we're seeing here from Jake, trying to turn this back around. Dragon Blade up and at the ready. Has 2, looking for more, picks up the 3rd. And it's that final Dragon Blade, able to add a little bit of stability here to this Hammers defense.
They needed a hero play, and Jake was the one to give it to him. They finally are able to stabilize after losing every fight since their very first hold in short order. This is a late kill if they get it onto Athan, and it looks like Hammers wants to hold outside of spawn. Even though the cart is so close to second, they will get Earth Shattered, though.
This is where I really hope someone goes around the Tracer and just pushes the cart up solo here, because I don't think Hammers is going to back up much. Now, the Deadeye will force the issue a little bit here, but with Train getting that last pick off, Hammers, they're comfortable to be here. Scrum Reality takes a nap in the bushes.
Yeah, find a comfy patch of grass, take a little siesta.
It's sunny out, it's probably warm, but there's a Graviton coming in from Volt, picks up 3. Hammers not stopping here, Super getting into it. I've seen this movie before. That's with a lot of people bashed on Super's Reinhardt rocket handler.
Well, he's going to hold right at the door, belly to belly with that spawn point entrance. Vol is at 100%, able to beam down people if needed. This hold is very aggressive, and ZP only 30 seconds left.
Meanwhile, the payload is pushing back this entire time. Immortals in a very not good situation. Super diving in once more. He goes into a Sound Bear, but both teams drop the beat. The counter Sound Bear working out here from Hammers. Already Agilities out of this fight. Vol, full charge, laying far more damage than Azari should be able to. And now Immortals, with almost no time left, do they even have anyone going to the point? They are! The Grim Reality and Lucio have got onto the point here, and suddenly Hammers having to go back. Grim Reality, Cowboy versus the world here, looking for anything. Goes onto the back, not able to get Ana due to that Zarya shield, and probably was a losing fight anyways.
I kind of understood how Lucio got back there. How did Grim sneak out on the McCree? McCree, the least mobile of heroes. They're trying to bring back, though. Agilities gets a couple.
Oh, they get caught out by a Graviton, and Agilities is there for the immediate cleanup, so Grim Reality is not getting his fight in vain. Jake, Dragon Blade out, Hammer just a little bit stronger. 2 swipes, he's out, and suddenly Immortals might be making it to second after all.
It's very hard to sneak around as McCree with your spurs jangling, but he was able to do so. That opened up the front doors for the pressure to come in, and not able to clean those 2 up fast enough to restabilize. It allowed the reinforcements of Immortals to get back in here, use the ults that they had left, and now 90 seconds to close out this map.
Well, Vol does have a Graviton up for the next fight. Not as much for Immortals, but the Earthshare from Nomi connects. Knocks down 2, results in an immediate kill onto... Well, he dies for it, in fact, so not quite what he was looking for overall. Immortals gonna have to back out.
Well, here comes a boosted Zarya in. Vol has done so much damage. That is 2 to start it up. Grim does flip it around, takes down Train and Super votes out a lot of tanks down. There goes Rob as well.
Well, Grim Reality now trying to be the X Factor, coming in as a Tracer, picks up 2, and now this is where Immortals probably hoping for a little bit more chaos as they move this payload forward. Under a minute left to go here, Max.
It is twice that Agilities has come in late on his Hog and been able to clean things up. That second point was one of them. As it went, Agility's gonna have his whole Hog up, 30 seconds left to go. Super needs to have a redemptive style of Earthshatter as he had a rough other half of this map. We'll see how it shakes out here, ZP.
Well, Grim now on the free, looking for the long-range cleanup here. Gonna be trying to hold in the back, but he gets taken out immediately by Train. Train got the hook from the back, and Agility's now boosted up, whole Hog already used, looking to win the Hog v Hog. Gets the Hog v Hog. We'll see if he can pile on a little bit more. And oh, the shield just barely saving a boss there. That might have been game-changing as Immortals now down to their final push. Have to change it in their direction. Graviton comes out here by Immortals. Fall through, perhaps not all there as Jake pulls out the late Dragon Blade. Grim Reality trying to avoid the steal. He's still up and around. He dodges Dragon Blade, but does not dodge a fall through as it's looking like Hammers will be holding here in overtime. They take map 1 over the Immortals.
A matter of seconds there on that whole Hog boost. He got the boost, but the whole Hog had already been used up in its entirety. Little bit unfortunate there. A close map. Really cool sneak around. I think that's the smart way to deal with getting camped like that. Send someone back. It opens the front door immediately. They have to go deal with it.
Well, like you said, I think the mystery there, it's not that Lucio got back there. We've seen that plenty of times. It's Grim get back there. The world may never know, but it did open up the possibility of getting through there and punished Hammers, made them run way far back from their front spawn camping in. Jake definitely had some good moments here as Genji. This, of course, perhaps one of the best ones, given that it did, in fact, get play of the game.
It was the most important one, too. They hadn't really had stabilizing factor there. They needed that hero play to give them the time they needed.
Wow, I mean, definitely seems like Hammers had a better grasp of Hollywood. But I will give it to this IMT Immortals. They seemed, once they got their foothold, once they got the momentum going, they were able to get something done. And it does seem like they're very reliant on that. And once Grim Reality is feeling it, and they're getting their dual DPS, and Agilities is getting hooks and kills, they were able to find some, but Hammers definitely came out on top as we expected.
Agilities was the glue in this for Immortals. When Immortals was getting things done, Agilities was getting first pickoff very reliably. And it's easy to overlook that sometimes when you're not looking at direct on the camera, but when you see, here's Roadhog, he got the first pickoff, and he's done multiple fights in a row. He was probably the best part of this Immortals team, keeping them in this game.
Immortals' issue on Hollywood isn't their offense, though. It's always been their defense, and I think even they understand that now, trying that very far forward hold. It didn't work out for them because I don't think they quite understand how to even run that defense yet, as they got killed pretty far back. You'd rather die very far forward, but they're trying to address their defense at the very least, but it's still not quite there yet. Their offense in Hollywood has been fine. It's their defense which makes them struggle on that map.
Yeah, I wrote down live by the sword, die by the sword for that, because they got an early pick with that early aggressive defense, and they had a nice positioning around that. But you start playing up there, and if you don't do it correctly, and they died way too far back. And then we did see also Jake on Bastion. What was different about his playing Bastion versus what we saw earlier?
Was anything different?
Yeah, right.
He died constantly while on Bastion, and I just feel like it's a case where I asked Hex in the middle of the game, is there winning because of Jake or in spite of? And certainly he was drawing some degree of fire, but it did not look impressive.
Look, Sentry mode got a little bit of a buff and damage reduction incoming, but there's a lot of changes that happened with Bastion. I don't think people are experimenting enough with his recon mode. And that got a decreased spread. The clip increased. He's able to jump in and out of Sentry mode more often. People are playing Bastion the same way they always have, and I think people are not quite unlocking the full potential yet.
I would like to see more things where maybe more recon mode, and then after you gain a number advantage in the fight, then you go Sentry mode, because now you can't deep dive onto him at that point. He's more durable, harder to deal with. But when teams have been opening with Bastion, the opposition's been pretty good about diving in and isolating him. So I don't know. The jury's still out. I don't want to write anything out just yet. I think the only thing that you could take away is that the idea that Bastion would be so strong that he would be dominating everything, as many pro players were saying, by the way. We didn't pull it out of thin air for the opening of the show. It hasn't quite come to pass.
It has not indeed. But I've never ascribed to the idea that he would just be like another Soldier 76, but the changes were focused at his being able to be more mobile. That recon mode is a little bit stronger, and that is still untapped. Whether it can be tapped, we have yet to see, but it definitely hasn't been untapped as of now. Well, IMT, they went down in that map number 1, and if you were a betting person looking at previous results, whether that be on that map or just with these two teams, might have been your guess. We're going to be going into, I believe we're going into Hanamura next. And are we expecting something different out of Immortals based on their recent performance?
I would expect Immortals to have a bigger advantage in this map, because I don't think that Hammers is necessarily super strong on assault maps, especially going last. They run this for DPS on it a lot of the times, and where that works for taking first, just for the overwhelming offense and the spawn advantage that you have, it has struggled at times to take last.
I do wonder if Hammers is going to be better on assault maps, though, because of the recent change that came out. Because you look at Hammers when they play on assault, even when they struggle, they get plenty of fights where they actually win the first fight, maybe not flawlessly, but decisively. And those fights are much more rewarded now under this patch, so maybe Hammers will do pretty well here and catch Immortals off guard, just because I think their style of offense is probably aided a little bit more by the recent changes to the assault game mode.
Yeah, the only other thing is, are we going to see Super on Tracer? Is this something where they do bring that 4 DPS on point 1? Have we seen anything else from them on point 1?
No, it's Train on Widow, Super on Tracer, and then a mix of whoever wants to play whatever on DPS, and then 2 support.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. I mean, does this unlocked hype then on Diva? Is he going to be able to deal with any of that, maybe going in and nullifying a single member or a couple members?
It's possible Hype plays Diva and posts up on that high ground with Soldier 76. A lot of teams has favored that. That's one of the places that we've constantly seen Diva, regardless of any patch changes, her up top, making sure that the Soldier is safe to do what he wants up there.
Do we see Bastion on this at all? I know we technically saw it once. It didn't really work out early on, and we've seen it maybe on second there. If you're expecting just for one final push, is it a little bit better on second, you think?
It might be better on second, although I do think you're running a bit of a risk, because particularly on first. I think if you run it on first and they work around the Bastion, you're just done. You're not going to be able to defend first anymore. And even if you work out well the first 2-3 pushes, they can adapt and you'll lose the fourth. I think Bastion on second can work, but I think it's one of those things where you run it for a push or two, and then you swap off of it before the other team wholesale switches and ruins your day.
I felt Bastion on second is usually a win more strategy. That when you bring him in, you're already generally winning. So I wouldn't mind seeing with the changes and experimentation of you run him maybe on recon mode, you get that first pick, and then you can set up on that high ground across from the spawns, across from the point. But we will see, as I think we're loading into map.
We are indeed loading into map number 2. Hanamura hammers up 1-0 in the series against Immortals. Immortals looking to take it back and tie things up here on their map selection.
Well, we are in a beautiful Hanamura. Despite what you think of this map, you cannot take away from the beauty of the Shimada brothers' home. Cherry blossoms galore. Murlocs everywhere.
It's a beautiful place there, Hex, but I've heard that they have big turnover in their security.
Well, it's okay to have turnover in security that just simply aren't doing their job. I mean, Genji's good, but you just let him in untouched. What's going on with that?
Yeah, I don't think they're really paying all that well. But either way, taking a look at the defense here for the side of Hammers, not seeing any Bastion shenanigans. In fact, they are playing this about as standard could be here. It's going to be a 2-tank setup, 2 supports and 2 DPS. And Train is not one to underlook here when you're looking at play from Hammers. He's been a real thorn in the side of teams, whether it be on offense or defense.
Well, playing it standard compositionally, but not necessarily positionally. This is how Hammers plays. They've got a couple DPS hiding around this very front point. They are past the archway with their Soldier 76 and Tracer, unless they've retreated.
This could be very bad for Grim Reality. If Grim Reality thinks it's a normal Widow attack, he might just be in a world of hurt. And look at that, already under pressure. Ithan able to get to the big help just in time, but might not matter. No, he's still in and around, and he gets the kill. Ithan coming in, that's big.
Pack control is hugely important and now going to be able to get some damage going on. They've got a couple people trying to get some more done, but the remainder of this Hammers team has shut it down completely despite the perhaps misstep by Jake early on. They will get the kills they need to perhaps stabilize on this defense. I doubt they'll be out there yet again, probably going to set up behind this doorway.
And this is where there's a brief moment where Immortals might be able to have a numerical advantage, but I think that time is basically past. They're going to have to come back in from the beginning. At least they don't have to worry about Hammers lurking in the wings, but look at that from Vol. Dives in, finds Hyped immediately off of the Lucio speed boost. Now we'll see if Grim can open things up. He's already in the top. He's already found Super, and I'm not sure he's getting harassed right now as a Widow with no sightline, so we'll have to see.
Well, now the hook is going to be down for 7 seconds as the cooldown has been changed from 6 to 8, but Vol's still back here causing trouble. Meanwhile, Grim does take down Jake as he's got infrared sight up. Perhaps this is the moment they need to be able to open up first, but Vol on the bottom has taken down 2. Again, they have no answer for Vol.
Vol has just been walking into this Immortal squad full bore, no one really putting damage on him. And part is because Grim is up here on the Widowmaker, and Vol's so deep that Grim can't even shoot at Vol. So this is somewhat problematic, I guess, if you're running Widow. Now, Grim probably should have had the Ana pick a moment ago. And one thing to note here is that Immortals is losing a lot of time. Agility, so into the backline. Dragon Blade on the way, has one, looking for a little bit more. Ends up getting pushed out here, and Vol wasn't even looking at him early on. And as a result, Agility's able to move forward here, and maybe this is Immortals' chance.
It should be. They do have the numbers advantage now, finally, as Agility's going to come in and feast on the remainder there. Rob and Avas both down means that there will be no healing for this Immortals team. Or, sorry, I misspoke. This Hammers team. You know, even though Hammers try strategies that don't always work, the entertainment factor is always very high watching this Hammers team. They try things that no one else does.
It didn't work in terms of getting a full hold, but I wouldn't call it a fail either in this case.
Right.
They did take about 2.5 minutes off the clock. That is worth something when a lot of teams will take first on the first attempt. So it does eventually fall, but it buys them a lot of time here for a second.
Jake again behind enemy lines. He tries to put down that, but he gets bio-grenaded. No healing coming up for him. He almost had attack visor. Trying very, very aggressive flanks. Not always working out for him, but it usually opens up the door for some of his other teammates to get in here and finish up some kills.
Well, Grim coming in, and this is where you want to be as a Widow. No one on you. Plenty of targets inside. Finds Rob 420 immediately. That's a great opening here for Grim. Can he find more? Looking for the 76. He has auto-aim. Grim does not, and yet Grim still trying to take that fight. Earthshatter comes in from the defense and doesn't immediately get a kill. Grim still a huge threat here in the back, and remember, it's even better now. Respawns come in slower.
They are cleaning it up. There's been only 1 kill for the defense, so spawns are going to be slow in coming. 1 tick already down, on our way to 2. 2 ticks confirmed as the Winston and D.Va are going to come out trying to stall, but they have to get kills.
They have to get kills. They also have to, at some point, put someone on Grim, who has set up shop here in the back. He could eat a picnic lunch back there with the lack of pressure that is on him. Jake is going to fall, and this is just Immortals swarming all over this point. But Train brings it back. Pulse bomb in progress, keeping the hope alive. We'll see if it's enough. Hype, though, for the offense, cleaning up 3. Tracer on Tracer violence here. Train versus Hype. And though the defense is coming back out here, they're just staggering hard.
Well, they've gotten a couple kills, so their spawns haven't been too brutal. Vol was able to take down Verbo there, which is going to negate a lot of that healing incoming, their healing ability. Train takes down Agilities as well, as they are still stalling this out and looking good for them as they start getting kills.
You have to give props to Train there. Train is who was able to get the pulse bomb that opened the door for Hammers to bring that back. And then I think he got onto the back on the Grim. And once Grim was taken out of the picture, they really could re-solidify. But just notice the difference in that change there coming out. I think if this is last patch, maybe it's only 1 tick, if that. This time, 2 ticks are grabbed, and Immortals still almost got the point.
Worth noting that they have 2 ticks as the point is contested. Train very behind the lines. Avast will be the first to fall. That's a Lucio down. A lot of the healing now dependent on their second healer in Rob 420. Rob goes down, no healing for the defense.
And Grim working on building up the attack visor, 40% right now, but still good position over the top in on this fight. Tracer v Tracer here on the bottom, and I feel like the offense has still lost too many people. It might be a new world on Assault, but Grim, you're not going to do this alone, and I think he realizes that as he offers his body to the Shimada gods.
A new world indeed, but not quite as new as maybe some people would like. Train has been very aggressive on this Tracer. This is about as least aggressive as he's been. He was all the way towards the enemy spawn, trying to get things early, and he could mitigate a lot of this offense just with a pulse bomb, slow it down before it even starts.
Well, the thing to look out here for is certainly Agilities. He has a Dragon Blade up early in this fight. Train not going to land that Pulse Bomb, so Immortals, a little bit of an opportunity. They're probably going to open up Sound Barrier, Dragon Blade, and hope that Agilities can neutralize Jake early on this fight. He does have the Attack Visor. A lot of ways that this can go down. An Ultimate Showdown is on the way, but Nomi falls early on. The synergy on Immortals not there. The timing not there. And this is just not going to end super well for them. They do draw out the Attack Visor, I guess, but the fight is lost.
Can't deflect hammers. Train goes into the backline looking for a little bit more. Does not want to let these people escape as he's got rewind ability. They've got Ana in the corner. Not going to win that fight, Ethan. A little rough right there as they do stagger that kill out. They're looking for more of this aggressive hammer style. Knows no bounds, knows no map difference either. They're still chasing.
They're chasing really far out here to a point that almost becomes questionable, but now they realize, all right, we should back up. Only a minute 30 left here for Immortals, though, so it's starting to get in the do or die territory. They've been saving their ultimates for one good push, and this is probably going to be the attempt that they go all in.
Well, the question is, can hammers stop them before they use their ultimates? Rob takes down Nomi. Nomi has not had the greatest game on Winston. There's been several times he's tried to initiate and has failed to do so.
Nomi has died first about 2 to 3 times here, and it's really been taking the wind out of Immortal sails. You can't win a fight when your Winston dies for no contribution. It doesn't work out. So now, if the last attempt was one that really should have been the one, this one will absolutely be the one, as with under a minute left, they're not going to have enough time if this fails.
6 ultimates, Hyped actually the only one without his ultimate. They're going to try to get in. Agilities has the blade.
Agilities has a blade, but he gets hammered immediately. Super knocking him to the ground, and 2 members from Immortals already gone. Agilities getting nothing with that ultimate contribution. Only upside here for Immortals, I suppose, is that they die so quickly they might get another attempt, but they're going to be doing it with far less punching power.
Well, they're going to stagger out their Winston here in all likelihood as he goes down late in that fight. Should be enough time for him to get back in there, though, for a full 6 push.
I just got this raw sense of struggle there from Nomi, really trying to get out and just unfortunately contained.
It was difficult to watch, but already on Ethan as he enters, he's going to go down immediately. They have no answer for this aggression.
No, they don't, and Train catches Ethan off guard there. Agility's late Dragon Blade just looking for any sort of momentum, but you know what? An empowered Winston pretty good at stopping a Genji in his tracks. And here we go, final attempt underway. Grim Reality with the late Tactical Visor gets knocked away. You can't fight Vol. Tactical Visor known that situation, and he runs into him again going, why are you still angry at me? Regardless, Hammer's cleaning up what is left on the point, and this should be a hold here. Hammers now, Hex, all they have to do to win Hanamura is just finish out the map.
Complete.
There must have been a point there where Immortals thought about running more tanks to get out because they were running all squishies. Nomi had been dying early in every single fight. And then when you're getting camped like that, the only way to break it is get behind a Reinhardt, maybe get behind a Roadhog, all roll out together. They never made any adjustments.
No, they certainly didn't. And now this is problematic for Immortals because their only way of directly winning this map is to have a full hold on first, and that's not super likely. It has happened, we've seen it, but statistically you're looking at 10% chance in even circumstances, if that, and Hammers is very good at early point attacks. So for Immortals, they're almost in a sense here already playing for the draw.
You've almost already mentally decided that your best outcome here is a draw. Very difficult to hold first, but, you know, competitors are going to try their best to hold first, and that is their win condition, as you mentioned. I would imagine Hammers runs 4 DPS here. but I'm willing to be surprised. They've surprised me at every turn. Right now, they are queued up on a couple of tanks, and why not? If Immortals wants to run their very squishy offense on defense, then the 4 tanks would be great against it. So you still have some time to decide here. One thing I would say is I really doubt Immortals will be as aggressive on their first defense as Hammers is, because I've never seen someone that aggressive on Hanamura first defense.
Well, being that aggressive on Hanamura is very risky. The run back when you die is immense. So if you fail in that, you've already given up point A immediately. It is the very definition of high risk, high reward. Now, take a look at this Hammers offense as it sets up. I do feel like we'll see Train on the Widow. They've had very good success when they've run Widow on first point. I'm willing to be surprised one way or another, but I think the Widow applies a lot of pressure to a defense and really limits as to where you can set up, because you have to respect the Widow sight lines.
Well, triple tank on this defense for Immortals, as Hyped will be playing the Zarya. Grim Reality on the single DPS of a Soldier 76, so pretty standard on both sides. 2-2-2 for this Hammers offense.
I guess the counter argument Train can make is, I've been having such a good Tracer game, why would I play anything but Tracer?
He really did. Unstoppable in the back lines. They're getting kills before fights even started. Really slowed down the push, but Jake's gonna take a jump over the top. Already move over, so already getting in position there, gets a big pack, and they've already made it through the archway.
Nomi's having a bad game.
Yep.
He was far too out there. Immediately is the first death again. This has not been his night, and Hammers is feasting off of his mistakes. There's no other way you could phrase that battle here. Hammers 3-0 on the kill feed. They're going to take this quickly, and you know what? It doesn't help when you lose your Reinhardt immediately.
Jake gets a nice rocket onto Hyped. Hype might be able to get out, but Jake has other ideas. Jake already in here. Zarya is low. He's chasing this so hard. Going to eat a Fire Strike, or rather a Zarya right click. Still going to be able to get out, though, with that sprint. We've seen how effective sprint is lately. Now look at this positioning from him.
Now look at Hammers getting on set point. Post-pump comes off the Train, doesn't connect early on. Agility's going to try and pull this back. Nano boost on the super as he tries to rock him, sock him on the point, but 3-1 here from Immortals. They're going to get some degree of stability. But man, Hex, they have to defend here for almost 7 minutes. It's going to be difficult.
7 minutes, they do lose everyone on this attack. I think Jake was really hoping to get a couple more shots in so that he would have tactical visor. I think he would have popped it right then had that been the case. But here is the reality we're living in right now. Super is going to have Earth Shatter. They have to find a way to crack this top left defense, as that is where Immortals likes to set up. That's where they're already posted up.
Well, I think if they go in through the top left, it's probably going to end in death and destruction just because of that Graviton by Hyped. I like this better. They're coming in through the front, and now this is going to give Hyped more decisions to make regards to where to throw it in. However, Grim Reality just having a shooting gallery up here, no pressure on him, takes down 2 immediately, and even though Train fancies himself a hero on Tracer, probably not going to be able to pull this one back.
But what if he did? What a story that would be if he did. He eats a Zarya right click up there, eats another, is going to die.
Hex, he would have gone to the Tracer Hall of Fame if only he didn't just devour that Zarya right click with his mouth.
I'm an optimist. Now it's looking a little bit rougher this next push. Would you say that Hammers would be best served trying to go for a junk rush here?
Certainly, if they had the info that we have right now. Whether they go for one is going to be more questionable. I don't think they have a whole lot that they can throw into this. I mean, Jake could use his tactical visor to little effect, but I agree that if they go full junk rush here, bait out 2-3 ultimates, it'd be great. Hype can open up here with the Graviton early onto this fight. Pulled in about 2. The fall through not necessarily there. As Grim right now actually getting rope up here towards the back. Not getting a lot done, as meanwhile Athan is the one that's really the punching power for Immortals in the rest of the fight.
Well, they baited out 4. That has got to be a successful rush for Hammers, if you think about it. They're going to have the ult advantage coming in. They will have all of their big hitters up. Earth Shatter should be up into the fight. They're going to have everything. They're going to have absolutely everything. A really smart push there by Hammers to use nothing, go in, bait out some ultimates. They're in a great position for this next push.
They're in a very good position for the next push. Jake will potentially have the Nano Visor combo supporting him here. They're going to have Vol up. They're going to have Sound Barrier. This is actually a very difficult fight for Immortals to come back and win. So this is a Hammer's opportunity here, but Jake falls immediately. One upside Hex, they died so swiftly that no ultimates were used.
That is the upside. Train just wants to get more style points. Will take down Athan. Eventually eats the hook. The vaudeville act of the Roadhog off screen. But War Chest now completely loaded. 6 ultimates going into it. If they can deal with Grim early, or Ethan early, they're going to be in a great spot.
There might be 4 minutes left in the map, but this is a time where Hammers needs to win this next fight. They will never get a better position in this than what they have right now. They don't have to worry about Graviton or Sound Barrier. So as they deal with Grim, they have a very excellent chance of taking this. And here they go. They open with the Sound Barrier. Whole hog on the way. No me getting juggled like it's a fighting game. But here comes Grim. Grim on the tack visor. Will he pull this back? It's Grim and Agilities here that have to bring this back in this situation. So Grim gets very little off the tack visor. Agilities looking for another hook. Train now in a moment where he can be a duelist, go around and be a hero, but is under heavy fire here from Grim. Grim, though, will fall, so it's back and forth, but I do think Immortals has done enough damage to this Hammers offense that they will be able to reestablish, and Ethan a big part of that.
Ethan able to come back and give that boost onto his team, keep them alive and into it. So that is 1 minute, but every single ultimate burned on the side of Hammers as they attempted to go all in there. Not working out for him, and now they have to figure out who has ults up, what they're going to be pushing into. They know they're not going to have an advantage, but maybe they can bring it back on raw skill.
It's not a great showing for Hammers, though. That was by far their best opportunity that they're going to get. They can still win on other opportunities, but it's much harder. Meanwhile, Agilities from the back. Gonna get hooked in first instead. A little bit too aggro there. Train with the immediate punish. 6v5 opportunity, but super dies in turn. So Jake coming up over the top, looking for Ethan. Has the deflect. It's a nice bionate to damage Ethan and keep Jake alive. That was big from Rob 420, and suddenly Hammers with an opportunity here. The light at the end of the tunnel might be visible. We'll see if they can fish it out, but look at how charged up Hyped is. Just doesn't have the health to take advantage of it.
Hyped has been glowing all game, actually. He's been that same color of Christmas tree for a while. Agility is going to get a couple of kills before he is finally unceremoniously undid. Jake gets picked off from behind by Grim, who has made the switch over to Tracer. I think they've gotten enough going here on the defense to be able to stabilize.
Well, you say that, and yet Super going in, finds Ethan early on. They still have pressure on the point. Respawns are certainly coming in, and Vol now finding himself far outgunned, and I'm not even sure they got that third tick, Hex. It's on the margin. We'll know in a moment if it starts going away, but might have been a little bit short. We'll find out in a second.
They've locked in that first tick. Not going away. I think I can safely say right now they have got a first tick. I've made calls in Overwatch before for a long time, ZP, and I've learned my lessons in a lot of those to never say something a little too soon, but they're going to hold top left here. Hyped is going to have Graviton yet again, but they did turn the ult advantage slightly in their favor. We do have a pause for whatever reason. We'll figure out why that is.
So we'll find out in a moment, but let's talk about what we're seeing here. Personally, I want to dissect a little bit more on Hammers' initiation. It doesn't feel like Hammers is super comfortable with how they're going in here on Hanamura. It's very scattered compared to what we've seen from them on other maps, and I mean, you take a look at that last fight. 6 ultimates to 2, and the 2 ultimates weren't gigantically game-changing like a Graviton or a Sound Barrier, and they get very little done.
They've had a really good plan a couple times that I would like to see them execute a little more crisply, and that's you put most of your meat on the ground and you push center because they're holding up top. That forces a lot of people up top to come down. They're generally leaving Grim up there and Ethan up there. If you can send Jake up there, maybe with a Dragon Blade, maybe a boosted Dragon Blade, he can take down that top, because that's been the problem when they push in center, is that no one's dealt with top and then it's a shooting gallery. So I think in theory that works. It's just been the execution that's been lacking.
Well, you definitely bring up a good point, which is on Hanamura, if they're running a 76, he has to be someone that you get on early on. The other X factor here, though, is that Agilities has been creeping around.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a lot of their pushes, aside from the big ult push, they go in and Agilities finds one person early on. He's been scarily consistent all series long. That's really been hurting Hammers, particularly in Hanamura, where you do need as many people up as possible to have a chance of snowballing the fight in your favor.
I have one piece of advice for Hammers coming into this, because I think we're going to be going back in soon. And that is, if swinging the hammer doesn't work, swing the blade, and we're back in.
Well, we are back in and Hyped, pulling in 4 members of Hammers, and the big bang from Grim. Just going to finish out the rest of it. Pulse bombing Graviton. Pretty brutal at finishing out fights. Now, there is one good thing here, if nothing else. We were saying that Hammers wouldn't have another opportunity. Fate has conspired in momentum to give them another opportunity here, Hex. They're about to have all 6 ultimates up, only a nano boost, so they have a real chance of taking this here at the end if they initiate this right.
Well, I don't think it's an accident or coincidence at all. They've pushed these last couple fights and used absolutely nothing into them. Now they're going to have a 6v1. Avast going down early hurts this, though. They have time to wait. They absolutely have time to wait.
It's the agilities factor. We were just talking about it in the break, where he's been scary consistent, finds the first pick off again, and that's one way to take the wind out of a sails of an otherwise great push. But 6 ultimates now, 2-1. Hammers, this is a fight you should win.
Well, they dodged the hook. There's a sleep dart early on, gonna make that Roadhog go down. There's a grab that goes up top.
Grab comes up top. I don't know if they have to fall through there immediately. Jake certainly trying to. Comes up into the top. Nano Blade in action. Needs to get onto Ethan and Grim Reality. No! He snoozes instead. Jake still up and alive, but no. The punch from Ana takes him out. Grim Reality and Ethan still a threat in over the top. Jake was not able to get the job done there. And unfortunately now for Hammers, they might have had a brilliant position rolling into that, but the execution is lacking, and Immortals holds them back. We're gonna have a draw.
Look how close it was, too. Well, as I mentioned, that was the plan going in. You send everyone down, you send Jake up top to deal with both Ethan and Grim. Up there, execution was, Ethan won that duel. Ethan's a very good Ana. He's gonna win those duels sometimes.
And that probably is where the match was, given how close it was to being capped at the end. If Jake is able to get even one of the two there, there's a good chance Hammer's able to finish it out. But there's a lot to be said, on the positioning of Hammers there in regards to the fact that it was a little bit sloppy coming in, and Immortals to withstand that degree of pressure coming in from Hammers. So I give credit to Immortals for a good defensive setup where they protect Grim. I criticized Hammers here for not winning a fight where they had an overwhelming resource advantage.
They had 2 full 6 ultimate combos that they had options for, and yeah, they just didn't execute them as well as they could have. And I do have to give it to Immortals. They fought those fights spread out enough, and they delayed their deaths enough to make sure that they, if they needed to on the first post especially, get some respawns. And then they just by a pixel's width was able to get back onto the point at the end there. Because I actually liked that last opportunity for Hammers, throwing the Zarya ultimate up there, getting people caught in the grab, and they tried to split up the fight. I honestly think they needed to get something done on the ground or win that duel up top, and it just didn't happen for them. But let's go back to the beginning of this map, Hanamura. Grim on Widow. What did we see out of Grim Reality on Widow in the beginning?
Well, Grim on Widow, he was playing Widow in a very awkward situation. Usually you are a Widowmaker on offense in Hanamura, and the defense is behind the archway. You don't have the weird situation where Hammers is just around you on all ends, so it made it difficult for Grim. And in fact, because they had so much power in Widow and he couldn't even attack Vol early on, it probably let Vol do more than he otherwise would have there. Because if Grim was on, say, a McCree or a 76, he would have been able to more directly get in on Vol. But instead, Vol was literally underneath him. So it's not that Grim was playing bad. It's that Widow was actually not great against how Hammers was positioning on their defense.
There was one moment where he was running back to spawn, and I'm like, he just wants to switch off Widow now. He is not finding it. And then he kind of turned back, and he's like, okay, we'll try it again. And he did end up getting a couple of picks. The team was able to recover, but it seemed like they were not comfortable fighting in that area, and I don't think I would be that comfortable either. Well, let's move into second. So second, we saw a few things. One thing that I did see was one of the best caster comebacks ever. The what if he did, though? So you got to give it to me on that one.
You got to make moments. Sometimes you have to make moments where no moments exist.
Your logic is undeniable, though.
And then he just decided to dine on Hype's Zarya Blaster, so why not?
There it is. But it really, I think, came down to Immortals delaying it out long enough. And I hate to use the term moral victory, but momentum-wise, it was a struggle there on Hollywood. And so coming into this one, and especially with your back up against the wall, with multiple opportunities from Hammers to take it, to come out with a draw, I think that they got to feel pretty good coming into Ilios. That is from a momentum perspective, but Ilios, well, that's a pretty strong map, I think, for Hammers as they excel on the two.
On some level, maybe they do feel good about that, but I think you could go back and look at the VOD. They probably feel more like they got away with one there, especially with the 2 fights Hammers had with overwhelming advantage. And I was just thinking about that last fight a little bit more, breaking down my head, and I just feel like they didn't prioritize well the Graviton, where if you know where Grim and Ethan are, you know that they're back on the top middle why not throw the Graviton towards there and then let Jake go in? Because Jake went to the left to begin with and then went on them later on in the fight, as opposed to a more raw initiation, which has a higher chance of victory. I just feel like the prioritization from Hammers in terms of where they threw their grav and where Jake went originally just didn't really sync up with the actual threats on that Immortals team.
I completely agree, but I think they were expecting them to be there. You saw how quick that grav came out. It was almost blind, just around the corner, let's get up top. And then Ethan and Jake or Ethan and Grim weren't there, but the theory was they were going to be. I thought they tried that several different times. Again, it just came down to execution.
Well, Ilios is going to be the next map, and we're going to see if, honestly, maybe if Hammers is going to feel a little bit more comfortable, because they did not look comfortable on that last point of Hanamura. But they definitely have some strengths on these CP maps. And I don't know exactly what their record is on Ilios specifically, and it was selected by Immortals coming into this. Two heroes that I want to look at coming into this is Tracer, Train, first of all, playing an amazing Tracer there on Hanamura and in the past as well. But I want to see Agilities. He had a lot of great hook hashtag 3.0 on that Roadhog. But what are we expecting coming into Ilios there, Hex?
I expect Jake to play Pharah and dunk on people, especially on certain stages. He has been a terror on Pharah. They've been running a Pharah Mercy there a lot. And then I'm looking forward to the mini game, which will eventually develop, unless they run a Pharah of their own, of Grim Reality versus a Pharah.
Well, the thing I'm looking forward to here is seeing if Immortals has a proper answer to the Pharah Widow combination on Ruins, which was very highly effective the last time we saw Hammers on here, where, of course, against LG, they tried running almost a mirror. Icefeld said, I want no part of Train, and it just sort of devolved from there in regards to them getting any effectiveness off their Pharah. So I want to see what Immortals does against that particular setup, since it'd be strange if Hammers had changed it up from day to day.
So both of us want to see Ruins, is what we're saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're
Ruins has
talking
been
about
a very
Ruins.
exciting
I want to see
stage.
Well. I just want to see Agilities getting some hooks on Well, but that's, the child in me just wanting those flash.
A note on that as well, though, is Vol, who's been mostly Zarya, switched over to Roadhog and had himself a great Roadhog game on that early aggressive defensive Roadhog. So they, again, surprised me with the amount of versatility they have.
Yeah, and that has been a big question for them, is Vol has been consistent on Zarya, but what else can he do? And seeing him contribute in some more ways is definitely something that Hammers can take away as a small victory at the very least. Well, they're looking for a big victory as they're up 1-0 in the series coming into map number 3. And they're looking to take it into game 4 with 2 maps under their belt. Take it away on Ilios.
Well, here we are. We are on Ilios, where 2 well-built stages, one stage where they're just excavating ruins kind of in the middle of nowhere. But this is a map where we do get to see a bunch of different styles of play. And unfortunately, it does not appear like we are starting on Ruins, but soon.
We will get to Ruins at some point in time. That is the promise that we make, running a best 3 of 5 assault or control map, rather. Gonna kick it off here, and teams are just running around right now, preparing to attack, as they will finally switch over. Jake is going to be running the Pharah. So far, no great answers from Immortals on the blind pick of Pharah.
I do think that if this works out well for Hammers on the first attack, we'll probably be seeing some McCree or 76 from Grim in very short order. And Jake right now, not wasting any time, very good at using buildings to his advantage. He seems more at home on Pharah, on control, particularly on Ilios, than basically any other situation we see him play Pharah. But Train runs afoul of Nomi early on, runs into his hammer, and it's Nomi coming out, the much better opening than we've seen him on the past few maps. Picks up 2, and this should lead to Immortals taking this fight. And when you see a Reinhardt pick up 2 kills like that, it usually means that Hammers was diving past Nomi and not really respecting him a whole lot. Somewhat of a mistake.
Not at all, but good for Nomi, as he had a pretty rough map on Hanamura, able to redeem himself, get some momentum for himself back into this one, as every kill went in their favor. Jake was able to pick up a couple there late, but you want your kills early as Pharah. You want that advantage, vertical advantage, to be able to snowball in your favor. Train has died very early, twice now on this Tracer. Having to go against all these tanks can be very difficult.
It certainly can, and that's a rough time for Hammers because they do rely on Train to get high production. Jake's not exactly going to have a big distraction here if Train is dead before he even goes in, so It's going to be up to Train to be a little bit more evasive coming in. Still, though, Jake moving in, taking to the ground here rather than the sky early on, trying to find a way through Asphera, but Vold taking out Verbo early on. More of an opportunity here. Roadhog eating rocket after rocket. Justice available here from Jake, but not the help to support as Ethan and taken down pretty early on here. Still, though, the rest of Hammer is having a much better time. Train still around, Pulse Bomb out. Doesn't connect immediately, but still a threat in this fight as Agilities is pulling this back. It's 3 kills for Agilities. He does die in the very end, but almost pulls it back there for the side of Immortals.
Almost, and let's just add another versatility notch onto this Hammers team as Vol now on the Soldier 76 for whatever reason. They run what they want, and now he's got Tac Visor. He's going to try to get in. A big Earthshatter puts him on the ground, though.
Tac Visor going to be Earthshatter. Earthshatter winning. Jake, though, Justice reigns from inside the building, takes down one before falling and turn in. It's Train who wins a Tracer battle, so even though Grim stops Farah, he pays for it with his life, and now there's no one to really deal with Train as he is diving deep into the remnants of this Immortal squad.
A big change for Roadhog as the hook cooldown is increased, but Train not keeping track of the seconds in his mind will get caught by the second hook there from Agilities. That's going to give them the room they need to put Nomi on this point and his gunners behind him. It's just a Winston versus Reinhardt battle on the point, not going their way just yet, but here comes some reinforcements.
Nomi finally getting a little bit of rest and relaxation there. Swinging that hammer is pretty tiresome, and it's hyped. Still bring this back here for Immortals. Picks up 2 immediately, fully charged up, looking for a bit more, and late sound barrier out here from Hammers. We'll see if it's enough, but Hype gets the nano boost. He is supercharged here. Full energy with the nano boost and just melting down the remnants of this Hammer squad.
I don't think they had any notions that it was going to be enough with the sound barrier, but Hammers is a team that will trade out ultimates and lives for percentage points. Exactly what they were doing there. They have the lead 65, but quickly being tied up by Immortals as we come to this next fight. Jake has been somewhat quiet here. Not the dominant performance you're used to seeing. It's largely because he's going very far in the flank, away from his healers a lot of the time.
Going to this next fight, Hype just holding on to the Graviton. Doesn't have great targets or clumps right now, but the Sound Bearer and Immortals now can change the flow of this battle. Train gets taken down by Nomi early on this fight. 5 kills. The Sound Bearer initiation from Immortals, letting them take that rather easily. Now, Hammers is down to their final fight here, Hex.
Not a typical game for Jake at all on his Farah. It's not been working, and oddly enough, they're not running any direct counters to it, but they are making sure that Hyped and Ethan both prioritize him when he does come around corners. Still takes so much damage coming in, and he has been having a hard time getting healed. Look, he's looking at his healer, begging Rob to heal him. He's got the barrage up. He's going to just pop it. Why not? Again, Ethan takes him down.
He forces the barrage way too hard there. I mean, I understand it's an overtime, but there's still better shots you can take. Still, Grim Reality in on the point, trying to hold back Hammers. Hammers has still had a decent fight here. Swap for 20 going the fall. Tracer v Tracer action underway. Lucio desperately trying to live. Grim looking for that double kill. No, not able to get it right away, but is going to get it now. Voss running foul of it, but in that time, it lets Train fight right back.
They are able to flip it back over. Train taking out his counterpart there. Still, Jake has been having a rough one. They are going to be even players 5v5 on the point. See what Train can get done here. Trying to get around the backside. Big presence on the point right now for Immortals. A hook takes down Super.
Super immediately falling, and it's more from Agilities getting the first pick, and now he's supercharged in on the point. 3 kills from Agilities after that nano boost, and immediately it's Immortals bring it back. And Hex, you were mentioning about Jake and Train. Let's break that down just a little bit more clearly. What was going on here is that Train was dying first very often. Why was he dying? Agilities had his number. And with Train dying early on in those fights, Jake was getting far more focused on in 5v6 situations. So for Jake to have room to work with, Train needs to be alive. And for Train to be alive, he needs to somehow avoid Agilities, who was having a monstrous game.
I absolutely agree. You need your DPS to work in concert. I would say, despite Train having a bad performance, Jake has also been not up to where we expect him to be. Even on the prior map, as good as he has been throughout this tournament, throughout the last several weeks for Hammers being the All-Star, even his Genji last game was a little bit suspect, so probably looking to get a little better momentum at the very least coming out here. Vol will be switching over to D.Va instead, perhaps to try to provide a little more shielding for Train as he goes in, as Jake as he comes down from the sky. But Jake has already eaten 80 damage.
One thing about Jake is that he's been getting hit heavily by Ethan. Ethan has been a big part of it, and oh, goodbye, Jake. Hyped right in his face, and the Ana problem has been huge for Jake. where he doesn't have to just worry about DPS characters, he has to worry about that. Rest of the fight going very much the way of Immortals after that early pick. And I do wonder how long we'll see Jake stay in the Pharah, at least for non-rune stages, because he's had a rough time.
This is the switch I expected. If you're going to continue to run Pharah, give him a Mercy at this point. You're all in on this Pharah. It's getting absolutely zero value. He's having a very hard time getting healed from Ra because of the angles he's taking. At least try it out. If it doesn't work, then I guess switch up again. But I was expecting
this
this.
makes it far less worthwhile for Ana to get on him as a solo counter. So Jake should be able to get deeper in. Gonna take down the V mech early on. Meanwhile, Agility's still a threat here. Getting booped back, gets healed up during all this, not able to land the hook. But when all this is going on, Grim gets into the backline. Still a threat here in the Tracer, and Train getting boxed out, not able to find where to go. And even though Jake has had support from the Mercy here, oh no. Did he fall in the pit? He does fall in the pit. Now, I think they were resetting, but
yeah,
awkward times.
Well, we have to remember now that Roadhog can be a pretty solid counter to a combo, given that his spread has been lessened. Right clicks will knock out of the sky both Mercies and Pharah's. Going to hold pretty far forward here. They're going to stay on it. I have to believe this is their last life on it, though. A barrage might come down towards the end of it, maybe wait for a res, but they've gotten nothing out of this combination, and at a certain point, it just resembles insanity.
Here comes Hammers, looking to get a good barrage to surround Jake, diving in deep with Mercy supporting him. Agility's looking for the early pickoff. Super, though, able to get an eighth in early on. So 4v4 here on the point. Finally, the Justice lands, and it connects. It's a double kill here for Jake. Sweet Justice finally, after a lot of frustrating Pharah lives. We'll see if they can get this done quickly, as Lucio is stalling out quite heavily here.
Able to finally get Lucio there, but as we've mentioned several times, this point very difficult to take back. You need a very decisive fight. That's exactly what they get as they do take down Hyped towards the end. Finally, much easier to hold a point as a Pharah Mercy combo than to take a point, and now they're in good position to rain down rockets, damage-boosted rockets from a mile away.
Jake in a great position here, and now we'll see if they can hold on to it. They effectively have to hold for the rest of the map, so their margin for error is nil. Jake, though, has very good position here by virtue of being a defensive Pharah, can use the rooftops to his advantage, gets right in, and no, he takes a nap. That is unfortunate. They've invested a lot into that Pharah Mercy combo, and Agility's again. First pick off once more. Immortals on the verge of taking this round rather quickly.
They used the time that Jake was sleeping to take down his healing, which is so smart, and now a couple more kills coming in. That is Immortals taking the point back, and despite one fight off of a barrage, it has been all Immortals. They will stay on this combination because now they have Resurrection, but still, it has not gotten the value they needed. Vol will be over on Genji too.
The problem for Hammer is they have to get on the point. They have very little margin here, and Immortals is blocking all possible pathways. So we see Vol giving his life just a touch to point, getting this into overtime. Grim Reality, boosted Tracer, blows up Mercy with extreme prejudice. And Jake, the final one to fall, no longer any support, no possible chance of pulling that back. Normally I'd say it's time to get off the Pharah Hex, but we know the next stage is going to be Ruins.
Next stage is going to be Ruins, where Pharah has run wild for this Hammers team, but not getting anything going. And it may just be one of those nights. And the reason I say that is how long it took him to finish the Lucio after they got that barrage off. Yes, there was a D.Va that came in, but he missed 3 rockets, missed them by a pretty large margin. Lucios can be elusive, but when you're on his Pharah, you know where he's going to be. You're hitting those predictives, and he missed about 3 of them.
It wasn't good, although there's something to be said for the idea where if you're having trouble getting things done and you're constantly kept off balance, by the time that things are actually looking good for an engagement, you might be a little bit off. Now,
sure.
We probably will have a Widow v Widow battle underway here. Train, of course, hiding his pick to the last moment. Probably not coming on Hanzo, but if he goes on Widow, which he is, it's going to be Grim versus Train. But Jake has proven very adept in this very similar setup, willing to go in on the enemy Widow while being supported by his Widow. So we'll see if this answer from Immortals will be effective.
We haven't seen Hanzo yet in the tournament. Nothing will change as we get a good view of the bushes on this map. Jake is remaining on that Pharah. Voss goes down very early. Grim with first blood.
Voss did not need to be that far up to begin with, and Grim Reality with the immediate punish as a result. Train now, under pressure. No, he grabs Agilities. Agilities immediately getting shot to the head. So Hammer's not out of this yet. They do need to get in the point, and that's a bit of a mistake. Hex, we've seen that burn teams before where you're still fighting, but you give up early control because now Immortals, they could lose this fight and still be very far ahead.
Well, all the backline was very hurt, ZP, because they lost their healer. Their other healers across the map with Jake trying to get something done. So their tanks didn't have the health to be able to push in because of Voss got picked off so early.
Jake, though, definitely make the most of this. The most successful round he's had here so far. 2 kills in the backline, using the pillars for cover. You do see a lot of pressure going on the Route 420 here from Hyped, but it's not quite enough just yet. He's still able to stay alive, getting healed up by a Vost. But here's the problem. This fight has gone on for so long, and Immortals still has control.
Well, Resurrection's going to come up. That brings Train back to life as he was taken out earlier by a Genji. Grim Reality finally solves the Pharah problem. That means that Rob's going to have to find another one. Grim takes out his counterpart, and Train goes down. Now he's got free reign of the map.
There's no more important people that Grim could have taken out here for the Samurai squad. Gets rid of the offensive Widow, gets rid of the Pharah, gets Rob 420 as a little bit of extra. Even though Hammers finally captures the point, it doesn't seem like this is going to be super long-lived.
Super trying to stall out as he popped Primal Rage, took down Aethan there. Agility is coming back into the fight too. At some point, Train will come in, take down Verbo. So, as we've seen in a lot of these control maps lately, the fights simply do not end.
Grim is still picking off people here in the back. No pressure on him whatsoever. And even though Hammers has been contesting for a while, it finally ends. At some point, you need to get someone back here on the Grim or have Train win that battle. Though Train picks off 2, he might be hunting for Grim here very soon. And here we go, Widow v Widow. He takes him out. Train suddenly coming alive.
Beautiful shot onto the Widow. Now he's going to get some damage onto the point. Makes the Genji burn his deflect at the very least, and they are going to flip it back over at nearly 30%. Getting very aggressive on the Widow. Not sure I love that angle. Just waiting for someone to show their face over top. Jake has been somewhat quiet as it's been the Train show, but at the very least a distraction. You can't completely ignore a pharmacy combo.
Well, we've seen Jake in this very tournament have very good success with flanking Pharah around in the situation now. Of course,
found him.
They have game tape on this. They do realize that he likes going for this, and now they can see everything. Grim Reality has the recon visor up, so Jake has to back out. He needs to respect that a little bit more. And here comes Agilities. Dragon Blade on the way for Immortals, gets into that backline and gets rid of the problem in Train. 4v4 here on the point, but the justice out here from Jake, looking for one. Already has Aethan, and he still can be a threat here in this backline.
It has been the definition of back and forth as they have alternated kills. Agility's not quite agile enough there, but now finally flipping all the way over into the Immortals' favor as the kill feed has lit up in blue. Grim, no small part of that at all. Here comes a Widow Mine that's going to actually burn down Hyped. Actually, I believe that could have been a headshot there. Regardless, Hyped is down to Train as the Widow battle continues. Train gonna back up.
Oh! He backs up and then he gets immediately res, so try number 2, extra life. See if he can get on the Grim here, and it's Jake that's really applying pressure to the Grim in the back. We'll see how effective that is in the long run. But both teams struggling here. It's Hammers fighting for their very lives here on Ilios. 92% for Immortals. And Immortals still fighting this right back. Still though, Bull and Super on the point. It is very back and forth as Grim takes down both Pharah and the Mercy. This is big. Even though Hammers is recapped here, there's gonna be a tide of Immortals coming right back onto this point.
Perhaps they do finally get rid of Grim. That maybe opens up things for Train where he doesn't have to worry about sitting in sightlines as they've at least pushed Grim out of position. Now Train will have the better position here. So despite getting the kills there, not any pressure on the point as they will rotate back around. Is going to be pretty much a full 6v6 heading in here. Train starts off, takes down Agilities.
Widowmaker's in full play. Train, 2 pickoffs early on. Sees everything with his recon visor. Looking for the Tracer pickoff right now. Just waiting for the go through the pillars. No, it's full! Gets the early hook, and Hammers, at the last moment, able to pull it back. I will say, though, that for Immortals, this is the closest we've seen Hammers set up on Ruins really get challenged, and here's the real question, Hex. Do we see Hammers come out with Pharah on the non-Ruin stages? Because I feel like the answer to that now should definitively be no.
It should be, I agree. Yeah, I mean, you know how much I love the combo. Why do you make me answer that question?
I have to make you face the truth. It's the only way.
No, it didn't work at all. It absolutely didn't work at all. Jake looks like he wants to be running at least the Genji here for now. I mean, the question I had was, what do they run instead? I don't think Jake's Genji's been the world beater tonight either, but if you're going to run Train on Widow then or something, I don't know. It really depends on how all the other dominoes fall here, because I think Jake could run a lot of different things. You're correct, though. They're not going to run a single Tracer here. Jake's going to go to Genji and then tanks across the board for Hammers. You're right. This is what Hammers defaults to.
I do like Train coming in here onto Roadhog as well, because it's at least going to be a balancing factor to Agilities. Train is a very good Roadhog, and Agilities should get the best of every time, but Agilities will get the best of Super that time. Early hook punishing Super for diving in, and yet Nomi dies in turn, so we're equalized out on Reinhardt's, and now it might be a Roadhog show as both Roadhogs free to look for hooks. Agility's piling on the Bull there, and here we go, Hog v Hog battle. Train gonna lose that Hog v Hog battle. As a result, Immortals should be taking this point.
You mentioned the term game tape earlier, and I just have to think with watching Super charge in and die as early as he did, that Immortals was absolutely expecting that. He got naded, he got hooked, they got their other Rhine in front of him, so his team couldn't follow up on it. It's clear that Immortals has done at least a little bit of scouting onto Hammers.
Just a bit, and now Immortals going to be holding back a bit early on here, but in a great position, and Agility's the one to watch here because he's gotten so many early pickoffs here for this Immortals squad. Almost gets another one there. Jake, though, not going to fall, gets through unscathed. And now that Agility is down, the fun may begin. Jake, Dragon Blade, looking for any targets, finds Ethan towards the back. And though it's not a crazy Dragon Blade, we'll see if it's enough. Grim was in the back line of Hammers as it happened, so this is breaking down to be very even.
Very even as it remains a 3v3 on point. Jake looking to finish off the Lucio, unable to do it. It's going to dash through the Tracer, make her think twice about coming back in. Those M1 shurikens, he's going to get in the fire of his own Roadhog so that they are able to clean up some kills, but still unable to flip it back as reinforcements have already come in.
Reinforcements are in, but Train and Jake are still on the point, so both teams are going to reinforce, and Hammers has a bit of an edge there as Train is able to find Verbo, but Agility's winning the Hog v Hog battle. Grim Reality coming back in, and suddenly it shifts right back in Immortals' favor. And Agility's, not only has his Hog been impactful, but he has been out hogging Train in these early skirmishes, and it's been a big difference maker between the two teams.
That was exactly the term I was going to use. Agility's has been the difference between these two. Oftentimes they're trading off back and forth. Everyone's had decent moments here and there, but the consistent problem for the other team has been Agility's. Now what that comes with is they focused him down very hard last fight. When you're having the impact he's having, you can expect the full brunt of the team to land on you.
Well, Jake gets a nano boost, doesn't even have a Dragon Blade up right away, but does build it up in the middle of it, diving back, gets rid of the problem in Agility's, and gets Ethan as a spare. 2 kills here from Jake, the nano blade successful. But Grim Reality still coming back in here in just a moment as Hype picks up 2. So multiple threats on Mortals that are still giving Hammers fits, despite Jake having a much better run here in this fight.
It's nearly a compliment to Agility's, though, that they used Nano, Dragon Blade, and Sound Barrier just to dive him and get in on there. Jake is making it work, though, on his Genji, but they still have not had a clean enough fight to turn this point back over, ZP.
Well, Agility's, he's come back in. He's buffed up by a Sound Barrier, and Jake, despite it being a good run, has to back up for help. Meanwhile, Super in on the Nomi early on. Graviton Surge coming out here from Vol, and it does do enough to let Hammers get that final bit of cleanup. Agility's is out of the fight once more, and Hammers might be on the way to taking their first control at this point. It's been a long journey.
They will finally reset as Grim gives them the point by jumping into the hole as Tracer. 99% though on the side of Immortals. One more fight will win them this stage and thus the map of Ilios.
Even though Hammers has had a very good record on control, I feel like they're going to lose here. Let's look at the sleep dart. Comes in on Jake. Jake taking a snooze. A great opportunity for Immortals going, oh, goodbye, Agility's. Train with some immediate payback there. Throws him into the pit. And this fight very well should go the way of Hammers with that quick of a Roadhog versus Roadhog action.
Really nice angles by Jake to try to get in onto the Ana player. Ana will just jump in the hole, and it is Train now going wild. Choo-choo.
Roadhog playing a pivotal role for both teams right now. And yes, that was said correctly. That's why you're giggling. I just said there's like,
way
yes.
to rub it in.
Hey.
Look at this guy. He can say words.
I know, right? It's pretty great. But Hammers still has to hold on for another 2 fights here. And Jake gets a Nano Blade, dives to the back line, finds Ethan again. Much more surgical coming out here from Jake. Makes it a double kill. And all of a sudden, a glimmer of hope for Hammers X.
They have looked very good. It's about 1.5, 2 fights incoming, but there are some advantages perhaps for Immortals as they've gotten most of their ults. However, on the other side, it is Hammers, but I think overall Immortals has used their ults better, even going back to Hanamura, so maybe favor them here, but a nice flank setup.
The Graviton is in from Hammers. They pull in from Hammers, but the Earth Shatter does not connect to land, and yet Jake in the back picks up 3. The self-destruct for Immortals hits nothing, so Jake has truly come alive with the setup from the rest of his team here. Hammers looks completely different on the second half. Goodbye, Grim Reality. Train being unleashed, 98%. Hammers might be living to the next stage after all, Hex.
Jake will get all of the glory here as they do try to clean it up. Still going on. It looked like it was all but over. Reinforcements coming in. We are going, but let's give Rob some credit too. That Graviton does not go the way it does unless he hits that nade onto everyone in it. Jake cleaving through them with the Dragon Blade. You have to think they're hoping for Ruins.
If they get Ruins, this might be spirit-breaking for Immortals. And guess what? We have hit it. It's Ruins once more. Just to restate here, Immortals was 99-0. So many ways of them taking that. They let Hammers off the hook, and now they very well might be paying the price.
They let him off the hook.
Hey, man. One of the greatest post-conferences of all time in the NFL.
Dennis Green's biggest contribution to the NFL. It could be argued. Train is going to be on that Widowmaker, of course. Jake, though, not going to be running the Pharah, so they won't have that 1-2 combo. But if you just had the game he had on Genji, no reason to switch off.
I'm okay with this. I think his Pharah was fine last time he was on Ruins, but his Genji was clearly superior on Well a moment ago. Why not go for this once more?
And his Genji can help deal with Grim Reality on Widow as well. But Widow takes down Jake as he lost that duel early on.
That is unfortunate, but Vol is picking up the slack here. Vol already with 2 kills, is able to deal with the Jildies early on, and Hammer's still with a more dominating presence here early on, especially now that they've gotten rid of flanking options like Hype. Now, still could go either way, but it's Vol! Suddenly, it's not just Train that's a great Roadhog player for Hammers. Vol is finding hook after hook, and including the mirror match onto Agilities. That could be enough for them to take this point. Though Immortals still pressure against Grim out of nowhere. His Widow still unleashed, looking for the final pickoff on the Lucio. Doesn't get it, but 2 early pickoffs. He might have swung this back the Immortals' way.
He absolutely swung it back, and it was because he started off that fight taking down Train. He gets a shot onto him, not quite the kill. Those Infrasight is running down. He will back out when he does not know where these threats are coming from, but Grim putting the team on his purple back.
And now for Hammers, they have to find a way back in. It is unfortunate that Jake died to Grim, because if he had won that, that's probably Hammers' fight through and through.
Absolutely.
Hype, sneaky, moving in with the pulse bomb. Not gonna stick, just looking for the raw kill. Probably should have stuck there because Train gets away. Now Train's gonna be open to picking off members of Immortals, and Hype, under pressure, wastes the pulse bomb. Still here fighting in the back, but Train gets on the Aethan, and the front line of Hammers getting a lot more work done.
Hyped, emulating my basketball skills. Just chuck it up and hope that it hits. It does not. Jake is able to take him down, and now it is just Widow. Grim will not have a repeat performance of his last time carry. They do flip it back over. They will probably be up to about 20 to 30-ish% by the time the next fight happens. We are tied 2-2 on Ilios here, final stage.
If Hype just throws the pulse bomb there, that goes way better. He had a very easy to set pulse bomb by pulse bomb standards.
Yep.
Got a little bit greedy, and unfortunately, his team pays the price. Now Jake holding on to Dragon Blade. In over the top, looking for Aethan again. Aethan has been Jake's main target, and he takes him down once more. The sleep dart does not connect, and even the Jildies feeling a bit of the pain here. Does take a breather, but now it's gone. Will he get that big help? He does! Jake not able to deny that. Has to back out, but you know what? The rest of the fight, very much in favor of Hammers.
I know, but pack control is FPS 101. You gotta have pack control, and that's twice that it's happened to Hammers in this set. Regardless, you're right. They did win that fight there. And going back to the pulse bomb that they had set up, let's give Rob again more credit as he was back there keeping Train alive during that interaction with Hype that could have swung the fight the other way. Now both Widows set up, trying to get some damage in is Train early on as he's on the unexpected low ground angle. He's gonna have to jump away from this Winston. Winston pops a Primal Rage, probably coming after him. He is. Meanwhile, Grim under pressure in the background from Jake. He will go down.
Jake right now finding opportunities here on Genji again. Getting on the Jildies. Every fan of Shurikens hitting their mark. Jildies falling. And this is kind of bad here for Hype. Hype just has to fall off the cliff. Nothing he can do. Jake being unleashed here towards the end. A tale of 2 Jakes here, really, between the first part of the part of Ilios and the latter.
And look at this, Grim has switched over to McCree instead. They will not have a pure answer for the Widow outside of Nomi. Nomi switches off onto the Reinhardt, so they're going to try to slow push it. Grim might be in response to to just how wild Jake's been running.
I don't necessarily like this. I think Widow versus McCree is a very difficult matchup here for the McCree, and Train is going to have some very good options. He's looking for Grim right now. Lands one headshot. Grim in trouble, still up and alive. 5v5 here on the point, but Jake gets the finish here. Dragon Blade gets 2 in the back. They were worried about Train, not looking at Jake, and Jake getting all the cleanup in the world here, coming alive and setting Hammers on fire, and Hammers on the verge of taking back Ilios.
Well, Train and Jake forced that compositional switch that they had to run in. They changed to a Diva. They changed to diving tanks to get in there. And Train had the better of the Diva, the Widow v Widow, forced them to change. Yes, Hype will get play of the game, but Train brought it back. Jake switching to Genji was the pivot point of the map.
No doubt about it. It was why they were able to come back with the reverse sweep, the mini reverse sweep, if you will, within the map of Ilios. Because they were down 2 rounds to 0 to start that out. It was because I don't think the Pharah was very effective on the first 2. The Pharah did work out on Ruins, and then you have the swap to Genji. Suddenly, you're getting more contribution. Train, of course, had a brilliant Roadhog round, and they were able to turn it on Immortals, and for Immortals, that has to be a bit soul-crushing.
Yeah, they were looking very strong early on, and they definitely had good plans coming into Ilios. This is why they selected this map. And I got to give it to Grim. He played really well. He played a great Tracer, and he had a lot of clutch plays on that Widow. And originally, we were going into this match with like Grim Reality being the player to watch, and then across Jake being the player to watch. But I almost feel like all the carries had strong and weak moments. And I want to talk a little bit about Train and Jake. Going back and forth with who is really carrying. But once Jake got onto Genji, he did really well. But let's talk about Train a little bit. How did Train stand out in this one there, ZP?
Well, how did he stand out? He had a very consistent Tracer for most of the round. There was that one round early on in Ilios where he was dying the agilities every time. But he did sort of adjust his strategy going forward, but is really, when we saw him come out in the Roadhog, where he sort of willed that last well victory into his hands, it was very big. And what we see from Train is that he's just multi-talented, whether it be on Tracer, whether it be on Roadhog, even when other sides of the Hammers team aren't performing. Like today has been a rather slower day for Super, for example. Train has been picking up the slack and gave time for Jake to get his game together and turn things around towards the end.
It's yet another note about their versatility that if someone's just having a rough day on that hero, they have someone else who can go play it, because Vol was on the Roadhog, and he wasn't necessarily having a rough day, but Train said, I think I'm seeing opportunities that you're not. Let's just switch. Then Vol's onto something else and doing it, and they do that all throughout several different heroes.
You could even say that that has been a problem for teams like Liquid in the past, is like, well, if their guy's not on, and maybe even Complexity to some extent, well, who's going to pick up the slack? And I think that they really show that they can do it. And because Grim and Agilities both had very strong moments during this, but when they were losing there at the end, I don't want to like call out too many things, but Agilities just didn't seem to have the same impact that he did earlier, even in this very set.
Well, that's the problem, though, when you're playing as well as Agilities was. You saw it on that stage. They ended up using a nano boost onto a Dragon Blade and Sound Barrier just to dive him in the back line. He was doing so much work that he became target #1, even beyond when we say this guy's a priority. It was, there's no way we're winning this fight without killing Agilities first.
Right. I don't think it's Agilities falling off there. I think it's Agilities just getting bum rushed from all very varying different angles, because he was the #1 priority because he was doing the most in those fights.
Yeah.
Now, let me just say this in terms of adjustments. I didn't like Immortals' panic adjustment there on Ilios. I feel like if you're getting bodied by a Widow, going to McCree is not the answer there. I understand that McCree can stop Jake, but it's so easy for Widow to take down a McCree when a McCree is coming from those angles that unless you think Train is just going to miss you, it's not going to work. And
well, and I think they executed it well, because they sent the Diva in, Hyped, I think, went in to try to take care of Train on Widow, but then honestly on the other side, Jake had a Dragon Blade up and just completely wiped.
Well, Train also got a big hit on the Grim Reality early on there in the fight. So
and it wasn't the kill, but it's like, well, at that point, you've got a low McCree, and he doesn't have anything left in his
Even if he got
barrels.
healed up right away, which we didn't have a camera view on, he screws with his positioning very harshly.
Yep.
So it just wasn't great.
One thing that I want to give it over to Immortals is they did have a nice showing on early point control. And we talked about the importance of that, especially on that Ruins phase. And in the first time around, they actually were able to take it first, even in a close fight. They were not able to pull it through, though. But how do you think their point control in general contributed to them getting at anything?
Nomi was much better on Reinhardt than he was on the previous map. On Winston, having the shield up, he actually opened a lot of those fights with a couple hammer swing kills. I think it's a hero that he's probably a little more comfortable on, or at least that's what it looked like tonight. He had a much better map overall than he did on Hanamura. That's why they had bigger bodies on the point, able to have that control. He kept his shield up for the most part, but when he had moments to swing the hammer, he did. But he wasn't going super aggressive for charges or even fire strikes. He was just using shield and hammer back to basics.
Yeah, no, and it definitely showed in comparison to the previous maps. I do want to bring it back to one thing we talked about, and that's the decision making on the Pharah. Yeah, and you could see like that. Well, like we picked the Pharah. Okay, that's not working out. I guess we'll throw Mercy into the equation, and that didn't end up working out. And then the switch to Genji. Do you go off of that Pharah faster? I mean, when you talk about decision quality.
Well, I think for Hammers, they had a decent amount of faith in running the Pharah there. Just looking back to earlier games that they've played in the OCS, we've seen Jake have very big games on Pharah, particularly on Ilios. Ruin's probably perhaps the most prolific, but it was unique that they struggled on Pharah as much as they did here. Multiple reasons for that. I think Agilities was having a great game that clearly interfered with that in regards to players like Train making interference in the back, but also it's just possible Jake wasn't having the best Pharah day, and at some point you recognize that and change gears.
It's a point we made a lot of times that when you are running that Pharah Mercy combo in particular, there were so many times where just the rest of the team didn't have any healing, and that was a Voss getting picked off early, and then if you're not doing as much damage or doing almost god tier damage on the Pharah Mercy combo, it's simply not worth it. The rest of your team doesn't have the help that they need.
You know, and actually through this last map, I almost forgot that this is a new patch. Yeah. I mean, we didn't see a lot. I would say that we probably, if we were really looking close, we might see the defense matrix changes maybe coming to play. Probably not even that. A little bit of the hook. I was noticing, the hook looked a little different, but that actually looked a lot like what we've been seeing the last couple of weeks.
The hook, it also allows you to be more confident in running just a Roadhog against a Pharah Mercy combo because of the right-click changes. You can one-shot a Pharah Mercy if they get a little too close to you, even when your hook's on cooldown.
Indeed. So if I'm looking at that correctly, it's looking like the next map in the series will not be Dorado, which is a little bit surprising to me. It's looking like it's going to be Watchpoint Gibraltar, and this is Immortals that gets to choose because they just lost. I'm a little bit at a loss here as I look at this.
Yeah, and this is when I was on like doing that second guess like I did in map number 1. Now wait, Immortals picked Hollywood White. Oh no, but in this case it really is them actually picking this. And they have had very good performances on Dorado. It seems like they really know where to fight, and they have a lot of good options to fight there. Is there any ideas as to why they might pick Gibraltar in this case?
I'm looking at it and racking my head, and I mean, you can probably come up with reasons where Grim is very good in 76 and Hangar phase, and there's ways you can work it to your advantage. But when you do the cross comparison and go, why would you pick this over Dorado, which you have historically been very good on, it's harder to make a compelling argument, aside from the fact where maybe they had a scrim against Hammers at some point and Hammers surprised them on Dorado.
Agreed, 100% on all you said, but the defense of Immortals was pretty good on Dorado, one of the last times we saw them. If they can force the fights to where they want to force the fights, they can still win it. But it is odd because on Dorado, they don't have to force the fights where they want to force the fights. The fights happen where they already want to fight. So now they're going to have to play this game of baiting them into the server room, things like that. They've added maybe an unnecessary step. Now, of course, we don't know all of their practice, all their scrims, things like that. We would have expected them to see Dorado, but maybe they know something we don't. They haven't been terrible on Gibraltar defense.
And I'm trying to think because I feel like, did they play in the OMM? I think that this was part of the lower bracket finals.
All the Overwatch starts to run
Yeah,
together
right.
at a certain point.
Blurs together, right? Yeah, and I mean, unless we all watched those VODs all today, which I certainly didn't. I'd be curious to see.
How dare you?
Yeah,
We
right.
poured
Well,
our
you know what I was
heart
going to say?
and
I'd be curious to
soul
look
into
back.
that
Yeah,
during
I'm
the
sorry.
podcast,
Listen,
really.
okay, forgive me. But I mean, I was going to say, well, we can go back and look at them, but we're going to actually see a little bit of what their mentality is coming into Gibraltar here, and this is another one of those ones where Immortals, they've had some bursts of strong performances. Hammers has been a little bit more consistent, and that's why they're sitting at 2-0 on the scoreboard.
Do you think, as we try to ready up into here, that we will see Widow on Gibraltar again, just based on Train knowing that he pretty much won that he won it 60-40 at least?
I think Widow is always an option when you go to Gibraltar. We've seen plenty of iconic plays where Widow is used well. I think that if you're having trouble with this 76, who's not with his Reinhardt in particular, you certainly can run the Widowmaker. Now, do I think we're likely to see it in the very beginning? Maybe. I would say it's probably more 30% chance.
Right.
I don't think teams, it's necessarily a first go-to on Gibraltar all the time, but it does pop up every now and then.
But stage 2, though. Stage 2, Widow becomes a little stronger, and especially if you're having problems taking top of shuttle. As we load into beautiful Gibraltar, we talk about Hollywood being sunny. Gibraltar sometimes feels like it's right on the sun.
I see Gibraltar and it's almost too sunny. I just feel like I would burn. And let me tell you, as someone that is way too pale, I burn very easily.
That's our new comedy sitcom pitch. It's too sunny in Gibraltar.
All right, so looking at the defense for Hammers as they set up here, doesn't look like they're going to be coming out with anything too crazy, but we know how they like defending here. They do like room-based defense. That's where they like taking fights. It's where they had a pretty good defense against Rogue, where they were able to bait Rogue into the hangar defense area, the room on top, and they were able to hold them off there. So for Immortals, your goal has to be, how do you dislodge Hammers from that room or fight around it?
Well, we'll see if Grim comes out here. This was also part of my thinking, too, that Grim didn't necessarily get beaten Widow v. Widow very often. There were times, but I think he held his own enough that he might come out with it. Nomi, of course, will not be on the Hanzo. Of all heroes who switch and spawn to other heroes, it's always the Reinhardt. It's always the Reinhardt dreaming of not holding the shield, because Reinhardts generally have their one hero they play. But so far, looking pretty standard from them coming out. Would not surprise me if Grim takes a peek early on at the very least, and I think they're going to do it. Nomi's going to hit a Sonic Arrow. Maybe Grim tries to get a peek off that.
Could definitely be a thing as Sonic Arrow comes out, and I think more than anything else, you just want to make sure you don't have 5 people waiting out here to jump us, right? And the answer is no.
Well, Grim has not left spawn, and he will not leave spawn as Widow. ZP was right as always. And so you get over to 76 instead on the offense. On the defense, Jake, of course, on the Genji, as it's been his best hero of the day so far. Other than that, a lot of tanks and some heals.
And this is where Jake, he does have support from Rob 420 in the back, but still has to be careful about how deep dive he does go here. He's not going to have anyone else joining him on his diving adventure, so he's a little bit of a lone ranger here.
Well, in the back line, it is Jake trying to get some done. He does dash through to his team as it starts out. And that is a pretty nice charge onto Super. Drops him down for agility's clean up. 2 quick kills for Immortals on their offense.
Agility striking blood very early on. Grim Reality with the follow through. And now Hammers down with 4 people. One of them is Jake off in the middle of nowhere, who's having trouble getting back to this fight in an effective way. Does come back in, gets shielded by Vol, but he's going to fall immediately. Immortals, the number advantage is far too strong here. And nothing too crazy there, Hex. Just a good pick off by Agilities that snowballed unto itself.
Nothing too crazy except for going in there at the end, and maybe some split spawns here are going to be punished, but they fed so hard into that for 0 stall. That was as bad of a second ditch defense as you could have.
And here's the problem for Hammers. They're very good in hangar if they can get back up here and secure the room and hold up there. But Immortals, they rolled in. They have great positioning. Now, they're piling on the Lucio. The only guy who's pushing the card, Verbo, in some real trouble. Suddenly, the Dragon Blade comes out. The boop has been used. The boop ineffective. Jake slashing, slicing and dicing in over the top. Picks up 3 before it's all said and done. Feels bad to be Verbo there.
It was a really smart strategy, though, knowing that Immortals wanted to push far forward. You still see the 1x on the cart while you see all of their big boys looking to find you coming in. Just ignore them, roll around them, make them come back to the cart. Really smart move, but yeah, poor Verbo.
Verbo, it's one thing, it's like, wow, I'm stuck here pushing the cart. Now you have a Genji coming in on me? Guys, this isn't fair.
Hey, he burned out the Dragon Blade. Good for him.
The important thing here for Immortals is that they have much better positioning now. They get the hole in the room, and there's the Graviton coming up by Vol. 3 people can be sucked in. Will the fall through be there? Traded nano boosted whole hog coming in. Will be cleaving up the remnants that Vol put together. So 5 kills by Hammers. Very decisive.
This is how we've seen Hammers play this map before. It's one of the reasons that they do feel comfortable throwing bodies in onto first in those last-ditch, low percentage chance efforts. Because when they get to the shuttle phase, they know exactly how to take high ground back, even when they're at a disadvantage. They will throw ults at it, but they are able to restabilize onto shuttle, and very difficult for offenses to find a good avenue into Gibraltar second.
The downside for Immortals is that they have to fight Hammers and evict them from this room. The upside, they have a lot of tools to do that, and Verbo, unfortunately, gets picked off early. A little bit too far up, and that makes things rough. Still, though, they move in. Graviton out the way. Grim Reality, confused, goes to do housekeeping in the back, but still goes for the front, and the Graviton causes 5 kills there, Hex. So in the end, it works out. They're going to get Hammers out of that room. The Graviton does its job, and now they should be able to pull this all the way to the end of second.
Graviton into Nomi, hyped, and Nomi combining for 5 kills there as Grim was busy, as you mentioned, cleaning up Jake in the back lines. Jake's about to have his Graviton, and Earthshatter does go down. He wants to dislodge Grim from up here, though. He does bust it out. Grim does take down Rob. Here's a Sound Barrier stifling Jake.
The Sound Barrier just ruins Jake's day, no doubt about it. Doesn't get on Grim Reality as a result. Train trying to bring this back, but Immortals, they have a very good position. Still, Jake and Train still up. Immortals could fail to take this if they're not careful, but Verbo, 2 kills on the payload. Why not? Dropping the beat. A little bit of revenge there for the time he died to Ana, and Immortals gonna be keeping a good pace here. A little under 4 minutes remaining.
I think even Hammers is fine with Verbo getting a 3 kill there. Everyone's got to root for him there. A little revenge for our Lucio cart pusher. They do have to reset, and now it gives up a lot of position to Immortals to push this front line, trying to get as much free push as possible. Ideally, you'd like to get the cart most of the way up the hill as the defense wants to hold at first bend.
And for the defense, they need to find some way of stabilizing. Super has had a pretty quiet game here so far. Maybe this is where he gets the Earth Shatter, but no, he goes too far up. Immortals just immediately punishes him for it. More bad times here for Super, as Immortals now 5 versus 4. Big advantage here on the card, and they're well aware of where Train is trying to get pickoffs. Still gets the hook, but doesn't get the follow through. He's getting swarmed on all angles.
That's a couple kills as Agilities and Verbo combined for 2. Now they're going to have the grab up as a closeout ultimate. Speaking of, Nomi also has his up. They are loaded for bear. They need to hit their own on defense to have any chance of stalling this progress.
Well, the defense will have that chance. Vol opens up with the grab, pulls in 3. A counter grab is out, only gets Vol. Vol is certainly going to fall to Grim Reality because of that, but a Jake, Dragon Blade into the back line, has 2, still up. Really low health, though. Not enough to challenge Grim, but picks up a 4th. Grim having himself a spree here. Grim Reality can roll back. I think for him, that was the option select. Either dies to the team or takes that long leap into the water.
Jake, another hero moment that they had to have. Yes, they use the ultimates, but you can't save him for anything else. Interesting to see what he's going to switch to. He's going to go to a 76. Do you like this? It does deny some high ground from Grim on occasion, but he's been having such a good Genji that you'd think he'd be able to do the same on Genji.
I'm okay with the 76. I think Super needs more support going in. Super's been sort of going up, not a lot of poke with him. I think the 76 gives him a little bit more muscle, especially when combined with Train.
Okay, also a good healing station to supplement if you do end up losing some healers. That hook is going to come in on Super. Not long for this world. Speaking of your combos, that is Grim starting it off. 2 tanks already dead as Grim runs in.
Grim being merciless, pushing him through. Jake is still in the back line, but he doesn't have attack visor. He does get on the 8th in pretty early on, but here comes the Sound Barrier in this fight for Hammers. Only going to affect Rob 420 and the Lucio cast it. Not going to be enough to delay. And Immortals finishes out Gibraltar with a bit of change to spare. 1:38 left on the clock. Pretty good time for Gibraltar, given that we don't always see teams finish out Gibraltar to begin with.
Just the eye test, not even looking at the clock. A great Gibraltar. They were barely stopped, and when they were stopped, it took giant hero moments in every ultimate that Hammers had. Hammers won a couple fights there, but it was generally having to use everything they had. Were unable to win fights without the ultimate advantage, so very difficult for them, and perhaps we're seeing why Immortals picked this map.
So, take a look at Immortals and their defense as they set up here. Not really going with anything too crazy. They're going with that optional dive defense. Or no, it's actually looking more fuller dive here because they have no Reinhardt. Instead, they're going to be running Nomi on the Winston, hyped on the Tracer. It's not a Genji diving in, but still a lot of dive power towards the back and just DPS across the board.
Well, Immortals has never really had an issue on offense. They continue to have issues on defense, trying to emulate things that other teams have done. We saw them try this out the other day on a dive defense, playing very aggressive on Gibraltar, and it played right into their enemy's hands. I believe it was Luminosity Gaming. And it seems like they go away from their style on occasion. We'll see if it works out a little bit better versus Hammers, but Immortals, the question's never been their offensive pushing potential. Their question has been how well can they hold past first points when things fall apart.
I will say that this has not been a good look for Immortals. I know they tried something similar to this versus Rogue, and it just went completely terrible.
Yes.
And more than anything else, I just don't think Nomi is that comfortable on Winston relative to his Reinhardt when you consider very heavy dive compositions like this. So maybe this works out, but if I had to guess, I think Hammers deals with this pretty readily.
Hammers for the moment queued up on their, what do you want to call it, USSR Hammers, what you called it earlier, composition, where they put a lot of stuff on the cart.
The USS, not USSR. That USSR.
I didn't know. Sorry, I've been reading a little too much front page lately, just bombarded with politics.
Grim Reality able to take down Jake early on. So even though he came out of the Bastion, he's immediately removed, and Jake not going to continue that experiment for much longer. Now on the Genji early on here. So Immortals getting some early success with this aggressive defense. I just wonder how long it's going to last.
Well, they have been aggressive up top with Grim Reality. Agilities takes down Jake very early, which is difficult. Train also taken out by Grim, so far the aggressive defense working out. Although they've had moments where the aggressive defense has worked out, it's generally, I worry about them once it gets cracked, how they're able to reestablish themselves, but maybe it won't even get cracked. Look at these kills coming in.
It's been far more convincing here for Immortals, more so than I was expecting early on, and certainly more so than Hammers was expecting early on. They were building their battleship, the USS Hammers, and did not quite work out the way they're expecting. And now they're just getting flanked on all sides as they try and come out here. So Immortals having a much better showing of this aggressive defense than we saw in the Overwatch monthly melee.
Well, they do change some things up, but Jake again dies very early on. They're trying to dislodge them from that bridge. They sent the Diva up there and the Genji, but it did not work out. The Hype is going to get back in here, and still it is all Immortals on this super aggro hold.
It's not just all Immortals, it's all Immortals in the most dominant way possible. Hammers has been struggling to get anything done here, Hex.
Oh, look at this stagger two on Train. They will finally clean him up mercifully. They're going to have to use ults to get out of here.
They are almost certainly going to have to use ults to get out of here, and that's rough because you want to use them to take the point proper. Now you're using them to get space that generally you got for free.
Well, it seems that Immortals went to the lab and practiced this aggressive defense. Here comes the attack visor. Grim gets knocked off the top, but in good position. Gets knocked down again on the bottom. Still 2 kills with it, though. Jake trying to clean it up.
While Super gets too early on, they're going to bring out the sound barrier here from Immortals. I'm not sure if Immortals are going to take this fight in particular. They've lost a lot of their damage moving in. Nomi certainly in a boatload of trouble here. Jake diving in. Going to have Dragon Blade at the ready. Won't need to use it to finish this out. And now Ethan just doing the run around here. But Jake dashing through, cutting him down. But you gotta give credit to Immortals. They bought quite a bit of time here. The question is, will they have a decent defense on the second part? Because the downside to that defense there, Hex, is that now you don't get good server room positioning or high ground.
I do believe they must have practiced that defense, so it looks miles better than how we saw it the other day. So perhaps that's one of the reasons they want to get it back here. But Winston caught out alone in glass. Jake gets a lot of damage on him already. His Reinhardt's up there trying to clean it up, but still only 1 minute. They cannot fail this push and feel comfortable with their second push.
Well, a lot is riding on Jake here. Jake with the Dragon Blade moving up. Only one person in that Graviton, but that one person is Grim Reality, so it's still not the worst. Ethan was hanging out behind, runs right into Jake's steal, and as a result, this is looking far better for Hammers. 3-1 on the kill feed. Agilities, you've worked some miracles here, but this is asking far too much. You need the back out because this point going to go the way of Hammers. And now, this is where you can really get some momentum going on Gibraltar.
3 minutes left as they continue to push in for this second stage. Vol gets slept, but I don't think anyone's going to be there. And no, it just alerts them to Ethan being back there. Jake running wild. They have the high ground, but Jake going to try to pressure him out of it up here.
Jake moving up right now, pretty close to getting another Dragon Blade up. Avaz can drop the sound barrier here to keep Hammers up and alive, but no, he doesn't do it. Super already down early on, so they're still holding on to the sound barrier, but now, do they drop it with the Dragon Blade? Jake is holding on to it, gonna go for this health that once was a big health back in the day, now just small. And I wonder if Hammers lost a bit of their opportunity here, Hex.
Perhaps Jake's going to try to get in on Ethan. A really nice deflect, but not able to clean it up as Grim is there to help out his healer. And that push into second, all but over. They will rotate on top of the shuttle. A very difficult position to dislodge. However, Train a while back did go over to Diva, which can be a godsend to try to clear up that top. Jake also is going to have Dragon Blade ready, and his prime targets are going to be those targets near the top of the shuttle, Grim and Ethan.
Hammers had an opportunity to finish that out, the sound barrier, and they didn't take it. Perhaps a little bit greedy, but here's the sound barrier coming in, but it's too late. Vol already falls before that music hits him. Here comes Jake, though, trying to turn around. Has one in height, moving around the blade, looking for his next target. Grim Reality just looking for him anywhere he might be, but Jake able to get the health. Doesn't help him versus the Helix Rocket, though, as Grim, still a threat here in the shuttle, is going to have to back out as both teams trading out, but still a lot of potential here for the side of Immortals to hold this.
Well, Super and Train had ideas of pushing the cart. Super does give his life for it. They still are trying to stagger in here. 3 alive, 4 alive. Train gets up top, trying to shut down Grim. It has been a monumental task that no one has really been up for entirely. Jake's going to come in and try to help. Grim has to get out of there for the moment. His self-destruct coming in. Finds nothing.
Anything. It's like, wait for it. No, nothing happens. Meanwhile, Grim, untouched here on the top. Will the Diva in his face a moment, but he's breaking it down with his Lucio. Fully shielded up, but here comes Vol. Graviton up after the sound barrier is dissipated. Nomi has to charge right out there. Does bring one along for the ride, but his team starting to fall. Not shielded. Grim under pressure up top in the healing station. It's a 2-on-2 up here, and Hammers looking like they're going to take that fight. Ethan and Grim both going to fall. Hard fought, but Hammers still alive. 2 minutes left to bring this in to the end.
When they've had their most success, it's when Jake and Train are on the same page with that Diva and Genji. You just simply can't get any damage on it, Jake, with that defense matrix up, and he has made his living inside of that defense matrix. Priority targets have remained to be Grim and Ethan. When they are down, the rest of Immortals falls very quickly. Still, as you mentioned, less than 2 minutes left to finish out this map.
Jake right now, Dragon Blade at the ready. We'll see if he can get into the back line. If he can trade Dragon Blade into Attack Visor and take down Grim, that'd be a big turnabout here for Hammers as they really try to struggle against the remaining time left. Grim, Tactical Visor is up. So is the Nano Blade. Jake moving to the back line, and Grim going to gun him right down. Jake not able to land that last swing. And as a result, this is Immortals bringing this back, a graviton of their own. The remaining members of Hammers just going to get slaughtered in that vortex.
Rob waiting for a merciful death as they try to set up for their last push here. Some tools to work with, not a whole lot though. Super's going to have his Earth Shatter. Sound Barrier 2 initiates. If they can dodge the Earth Shatter of Nomi, they will have a chance. They'll still have to deal with agilities, but that's not quite as impressive as Earth Shatter. So a chance still remaining for Hammers, but their last one very likely incoming right now.
Well, the Sound Barrier they have here is going to let Super be more aggressive and actually live. The Sound Barrier is up. Where's the Earth Shatter? He's looking for it. He's getting pushed back by Agility, so Agility is neutralizing a lot of the benefit of that Sound Barrier, which means that this could be very bad for Hammers. Super drops the hammer, is going to knock down 2, so it does connect as Hammers now trying to pull this in. Agilities on the Vol, 5v5 on the point. Jake diving to back, gets nano boosted, no blade to be found there, just a raw Genji looking for a few kills. And now he's built up the Dragon Blade because of the boost. Takes down Hyped, but it's not decisive here. The defense is still very much a presence on this cart.
Now boost comes out on their Hog as well to keep him alive. Grim and Agilities are going to combine for 2. A desperation grab is going to come in from Vol, trying to get something going on. Not quite enough though. No follow-up, no damage there. It's just him and Lucio there. Super going down. This is all cleanup for Immortals as they come in. They will take Numbani unless a miracle happens.
Immortals finding the rhythm here on Gibraltar. It does go to the very end, but they are going to be holding back Hammers. Jake getting gunned down at the very end by Grim Reality. And Hex, I gotta say, if there was a final play towards the end that stood out to me, it was Jake with the Nano Blade failing to kill Grim in the back. Once that happened, I just didn't really feel like Hammers had a whole lot of options left to finish out the map.
Just a second off maybe of not getting that deflect, which would have kept him alive or at least stalled out some of that. But Immortals showing us why they chose Gibraltar, looking strong in that map, mostly off the back of Grim and Ethan, who dominated high ground superiority.
I gotta say, even though Super is getting play the game here, it's been an uncharacteristic Super game. I feel like
Quiet.
That's not even necessarily his fault to some extent. It's that teams have adapted.
Yeah.
He's going in, teams immediately focus on Super. He was dying first more often than I think we've ever seen. And more than that, we saw Immortals giving him more space. We didn't see the standard, how are 4 people running into Super's hammer? Because it didn't happen.
It's been focus and retreat, or vice versa. Retreat, still Super is going to come forward because he's used to them being there. They're not. He gets bio-grenaded a lot. And then what happens is their other Reinhardt steps through Super so that no one can come support him while they deal with that.
It seems like, I mean, looking at Immortals on this map versus Hollywood, it seems like night and day. And How much of that do you think is planning and practice, and how much of that do you think that this map just lends itself to their performance?
Well, we have a case study. You look at them in the Overwatch monthly melee, where we saw their first point Gibraltar defense there, and it was not good. And that's being kind. And then you take a look at it here, where it's clearly more practiced in just a handful of days. So one can only assume here that they did have scrims where they went on Gibraltar, they looked at how do we want to defend, and they found a much better way of defending that bought way more time off the clock. There's no other explanation for the disparity in performance that we just saw.
Yeah, and one thing I want to talk about is Hammer's defense. They really struggled, actually, on defense. And the only 2 times they really had a solid hold were when Jake had Dragon Blades that just completely dominated their opponents. And other than that, they didn't have any other main contributing factors.
It's fine to have those moments in addition to other moments. You cannot rely on giant hero plays constantly. And as I mentioned, it was mostly when they had ultimate advantage they were able to. Those are fights you're supposed to win. If you want to consistently compete with the top teams, you have to win fights where you don't have ultimate advantage or you're even. You have to win fights that you're not supposed to win necessarily just based on the numbers and the advantage. But they only won a couple of them, you're right. And it was only because Jake, you cannot rely on that and expect to be a consistent team.
Well, and going into the second, the attacking set for Hammers, we had the USS Hammers, or as I was going to call it the HMRS, but anyway, it doesn't matter. The USS Hammers. Do you think that Immortals expected that and they just brought something that hard countered it at the beginning, or was that more of shoot?
You don't have to expect it or not expect it. It's just not a very good strategy.
It's not great. I mean, as fun as it is, where you have Bastion manning the front turret, you have the auto turret in the back, the Torbjorn, the front shields are up. The reality is, everyone's sitting on the payload. You're pretty easy to focus down because you're all together.
I would play an arcade mode based around that kind of build on the card, but as far as competitive top-level play, I don't see it working anytime soon.
Some ideas for Blizzard?
Sure.
Okay, just like if you want the USS Hammers, maybe we change the name, but it's a good idea no matter what. But I have another question coming in, is because we saw Jake and the high-impact plays and kind of really a main factor in them finding anything on this map. They weren't able to find victory. Agilities, we've seen him on Genji in the past, but we haven't seen him in recent history playing it, and then very recent history within the last 3-4 days. Do you think that they just kind of push that to the side? Do you think that maybe in some of these instances where they're struggling that they could pull that out and hope for the same results?
Roadhog, in many people's eyes, arguably got buffed. Agilities has been destroying people on Roadhog. I think right now, Agilities is making the case that his Roadhog is worth playing over anything else, even though his Genji is very good. With what he's been doing on Roadhog, with the consistency that he's been getting first picks, I don't think you want to put him on the Genji right now.
He's a strong counter to the strong heroes that Hammers has. You run a Tracer, you run a Genji, and if you're hitting hooks like that, you're not only getting those initial kills, you're putting the fear of God in them where they have to change their angle of approach, and it's been more valuable to kill their flankers than it is to get to the back lines and kill Rob.
Well, the other thing, too, he's been instrumental in making Super's day just very miserable because Super likes getting supported, likes getting a lot of heals, and swings the hammer in your face. Something that affects that plan pretty negatively is the first moment you drop your shield, you're getting up close and personal with Roadhog, which no one really enjoys.
No, I certainly don't enjoy it, I'll tell you that, and I'm not an expert, but we're going to say that probably holds with most. We do have the next map. It is going to be Kings Row coming out here. And, of course, Hollywood being the first map, it was between Kings Road and Eichenwald. This one is being locked in by Hammers. And, by the way, for those of you, if we're looking at, since we had a draw, if this ends up 2-2 at the end of 5, that's where we go to that tiebreaker, which is on Ilios. And part of me is just like, I want to see that again. That was a close matchup. And a lot of that's good. We're going to rolling the dice on which point it is. But
well, that's the key point there now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you say you roll the dice. We know that there's certain stages that Hammers really likes. In particular, if they won't roll Ruins, that's a very lucky roll compared to if they roll a different stage. So if it comes down to that, it's going to be interesting.
Yep, we're going to have to see, though. But first, we have to get through Kings Row. And Immortals, they have to find victory here to bring it to that tiebreaker potential. So how do they stack up on this map? We've seen them on Eichenwald. I think that's the one that they've chosen when they've had the chance. What are they going to do here on Kings Row? Any expectations?
Not entirely sure what either team wants to run. It's going to be Hammer's pick, and Hammers has played very aggressive on all of their defenses. The one thing I would say is that Hammers knows that when second point comes around, if they get an advantage in streets and they win the streets fight, they're going to be camping outside your door. They've done it the last 3 or 4 times we've seen them on Kings Row.
Immortals' real strategy here versus the defensive Hammers when they are against the defensive Hammers on the next round is going to be, don't turn into complexity. Don't get camped at your spawn door. It's not a very good feeling. It's not a place you want to visit. But we're going to be seeing Immortals' defense here first, Hex, and looking relatively standard, though I don't think we're going to be seeing Athan, who plays Ana, going on the Sombra. Probably not a thing.
Crushing Dreams, just one by one. No Sombra. You can see a tiny bit of Sombra today, but then she ran back to spawn. So it's been a Sombraless day, despite it being Kings Row.
The thing that bugs me about Kings Row is that this is far into the future and environmental regulations still let them throw black smoke like that out there. That can't be right, man.
Well, the nice thing about it being this far in the future is that London clearly has a historical preservation society, as the architecture looks very similar to modern-day London.
It's just never going to change.
Never going to change. They're even relying on the same buses. They've just put hover wheels on them instead. On attack, though, Super for the moment. Yep, he's going to switch to Reinhardt. Doesn't play a whole lot other than Reinhardt and Tracer. Jake, why not run the Genji? Other than that, Train on the Roadhog would be the notable exception. They are going back to triple tank, 1 DPS and Jake.
This is much more bread and butter here for Hammers, although again, it puts a lot of pressure on Jake because he doesn't have anyone to dive in with him. Oh, Super getting a big one there. Grim Reality falling to that charge early on. No better pickoff you can get against this Immortal squad, so it's a very swift strike here from Hammers and probably gonna give them the point outright. You can't get caught by a Reinhardt like that.
You have to imagine with how aggressive Jake's being, they can't feel comfortable pushing forward, and now they're gonna send their tanks forward as well, looking for another pick. That hook just barely misses at maximum range, and that is as good as a first take as you can expect. Super finding pay dirt with that charge, opening things up.
Can't ask for a better opening from here from Hammers, and for Grim Reality, it's been fortunate where he gets caught by that. As great of a play as it is from Super, you can't get hit by a charging Reinhardt as a 76. So now we're going to see how Immortals defends here. They are going far up, but they have to worry about ultimates really slapping them in the face here in just a moment.
I like what Jake's doing here, just causing a little bit of pressure, a little bit of mayhem, making them back up, and that is going to be a charge onto Super. He lives for the moment. Nomi able to swing and take him down, so now they are down their shield tank, but Immortals know something is up. They do not see the people where they expect to see them. They know that Train is up there. He gets the hook, but not able to complete the kill as Grim finds him.
I'm not the biggest fan of Train trying that flank while they're down Super. They're already down members to begin with. Even if you succeed there, you're just equalizing and still probably going to get bopped by the entirety of the Immortals team. But Hammer's still in a good position here as they regroup.
I think he was going to leave, but Immortals had sniffed it out that something was fishy, and they rotated up there and kind of pressed the point onto him. They will be regrouping now. Ultimates online for both teams. We'll see about the effective nature of it. Earthshatter is going to be a big play.
Oh, Jake down in the backline. Nanoblade on the ready, slicing into this backline. Only picks up 1, almost picks up 2 right away, but it's such a heavy distraction that the rest of Hammers just able to finish things out. A very good initiation coming out here by Jake, and not a whole lot of Immortals could do against that.
No, so they've won 2 out of 3 fights here and setting a very good pace on Kings Row. The good thing for them, too, is they used a couple ultimates, but only the 2 there. The Nanoblade coming through and getting a lot done. Now they're in great position. Here's a grab ZP.
Time comes in. Whole Hog is there for the bit of fall through. Train trying to make it his, but the counter play coming up from Immortal. Sound Barrier keeping them up. They roll back in. Grim mowing down 3. So the counter punch from Immortals a little bit stronger, and the second point is still not in favor of Hammers.
Well, cleaning up after the aftermath of the Q party, it is Super who's going to have Azure Shatter up. Grim will have Tactical Visor. That is it. Everyone else used what they had ready to go. We'll see how it works out here, as it's been a slower push now through streets. Now that Immortals had won it, they're going to hold pretty far back on the card. I think against a team that likes their flanks and likes taking high ground, you kind of have to hold all the way back here.
And the key for them is neutralizing Super again. Oh my goodness, Bull almost gets bursted down, but he doesn't. Now the Sound Barrier is out. Hammers taking the initiative, and it's a great Earth Shatter by Super. Knocks down 3. This fight, Hex, is already all but over. And by the way, no Grim Reality taking the snooze up top.
Well, they're going to try to clean up these tanks. That is the swing all the way through. Jake had a Dragon Blade through that as well. Right now, just Super having a redemptive tour on Reinhardt, one of his better games of this set.
Really good stuff all around, whether it be Super's initiation, Rub, Sleep Dart, all around. Hammers finding the way through. 4 minutes and 20 seconds left here, Hex, as they move it forward.
It's Omnic time as Grim Reality is going to roll out with his team trying to find the right angle. Eats a lot of damage early on, but now shredding shields, takes down Avast, who was unaware. The Genji trying to do the cute deflect onto him. Doesn't work on players of Grim Reality's caliber. Now in recon mode, trying to get something done. Jake is going to be a late death there, and that's going to allow them the space they need to set up this Bastion wherever they want.
Grim Reality not falling for the trap of accidentally shooting himself during that brief makeout session there with Jake.
Everyone's done it at least once.
So, Grim going to be holding really far out here. I'm not actually sold in this Bastion position, and yeah, he's going to back out. That would have been risky to say the least. And Hammers, they don't waste much time to take another attempt. They're moving in. Vol, Graviton Surge at the ready. Jake already getting onto Aethan, and now this is dangerous because you have a man advantage and Graviton that's in your arsenal. Grim's not going to get support here if he stays up. He needs to back out immediately.
They will eventually pick off Jake in the backline, but that means Lucio was out of the fight for a bit. It is all Hammers. Otherwise, Grim may be just getting in a different position. Nope, he's getting onto a different hero. He's going to come back up, but here's a grab, locking them into the doorway. No cleanup really yet. There's Train on the whole hog with the huge cleanup. A counter grab comes in, but that is not going to be effective.
And that's a power having a grab in an uneven number situation. Hammers going in for the kill right now. Train on fire as Hammers finish out King's Row with 2 minutes and 58 seconds left. That is dominant, Hex.
And I will say, although Jake was fine and he played well, the tanks for Hammers woke up there. Super had himself a good game. There were some very good grabs. DPS from the Roadhog as well. So going a little bit back to an older Hammer strategy, but it checks out.
Super had a far better game there. He wasn't getting picked off immediately when going in, found moments to land the hammer and set up Hammers to win the team fights. Now, I will note there that I don't even begrudge Grim Reality for going on the Bastion there. The problem is that his team was a little bit far up. They lost people early on, and that's what made that final Graviton so incredibly decisive, is that usually you have to win that to get the first pick off and win the fight. But when you give away free kills, now Grim can't stand up as a Bastion. Now Vol has the Graviton that he can use to instead seal the game instead of bringing the game to that place in the beginning.
I liked how Jake played his Genji there too. Not necessarily going for the enormous plays, though those plays did come organically with the rest of his team. But the distraction of the Bastion towards the end was very good. Make sure that those shields are able to stay up, because when he was in Bastion's face, we saw on the kill feed, the rest of his team was getting kills in the back line because Bastion wasn't doing anything. He was able to dash through the Bastion once and kill Aethan, so he was very patient on it, even earlier before they're running the Bastion, just going for chip, going for distraction, going for poke, going for a nice little blue sit.
See, this is how Jake gets his power. Pre-match meditation, although it kind of looks like less like he's meditating and more like he's just drinking down an extra big gulp of some incredible drink.
That's probably, you know, it's the flavor's definitely blue, which is one of my favorite flavors of drinks.
It doesn't matter what it is, as long as the flavor is blue.
For sure. Well, it looks like defensively they're going to run the exact same composition as they ran on offense for Hammers. And the Immortals offense is going to be tank heavy with a dash of McCree.
Immortals moving in, and Agility's really got to look out for him here on this. He's been such a threat all night that you don't want to give up an early hook to him as he's moving in and staying on this Roadhog. Grim, of course, though, on the McCree, always a threat early on if you don't dive on him, but both teams trading out early poke here. Vol, 50% charge, moving in from the flank. 5v5 here as Train wins the first hook battle, takes down Nomi, but he falls right after the Grim Reality, so this isn't great for Hammers. They are starting to get bullied off at this point, and Grim right now can really take them to task.
They did decisively win the shield battle early on because Vol was focusing down the shield, but no kills followed that up. Grim trying to get into this high ground here, and McCree on the high ground is a dangerous prospect.
There it is again. Supercharges in, immediately negated by the hook. Can't get great positioning and gets punished by Hyped. So this is where Agility's been really ruining Super's day. 2 versus 2 right now on the point. Train, nano boosted in, looking to bring this back. Fighting versus Hyped, who is also boosted. Jake, late Dragon Blade into the fight, finds Grim, and between Jake and Train, they actually push this back here, Hex.
Ethan with a late death, going to slow this down the next push, and really nice work. Jake has the heroics that they need. Luckily, the last side of the map, they didn't have to rely on those heroics, but he's still capable of it. A very solid first hold, a definitely better first hold than Immortals had.
Meanwhile, Train being sneaky up here, probably going to settle for anything he can get, but if he could get McCree here, that would be big. But oh no, Avast wall riding not working out for him. Just sniped right down in his prime. And now here we go. You see Train looking for Grim. Grim able to get out of it in time. The Graviton comes out from the offense, but they get very low from it. Hype just fighting 1v2 here. That's not great. Jake takes him down. And Grim, we'll see if he can pull this back. It's been very messy on both sides here. The Graviton from Hype probably the more so. But Hammers are pushing this back.
They are pushing it back, but Avast, you can't be wall riding. You're not getting style points here. You have to know that Grim's out there, and one of the best McCrees in the game is going to knock you down from the wall. Deadeye's going to come up, try to zone out. Earthshatter on the ground.
Earthshatter on the ground, trying to set up Grim, but the Sound Barrier comes out and ruins Grim's day, turns those skulls into not skulls, as Jake goes to the backline, eating Peacemaker bullet after Peacemaker bullet into his back. Here comes offensive grab, though, and Train will he be there for the fall through? Does take down Agilities, but has to sell for that. It's still very back and forth.
I never count out Hammers in a scrappy battle like this, as that Zarya lived through everything they threw at her. Jake's going to be back in this fight rather quickly as he'll dash onto that point very likely. It still seems like Immortals a little tentative to push on, and now they're going to be fighting full force again. Haven't taken advantage of their trades.
Well, here's the thing, is that if they forget about Jake, Jake has the Dragon Blade up here again, and here it comes. Goes into that backline, gets stunned, but manages to live. Finds Nomi. They don't finish their plate after the stun, and Jake finishing it out for Hammers instead. Pulls 3 out of the melee, and oh, I'm gonna be sick. Like I just vomited all over Gil, and he's on the other side of the desk.
It was projectile, but Jake has a nice celebration, as he did earlier on Bastion as well. I think we know now to take the camera off Jake once he gets a team kill, but that is a full team kill. Only 30 seconds left. Immortals has to go in with 0 ultimates. Maybe Ethan gets a boost somewhere in this.
Last chance here for Immortals, or they will be stuck here at first.
Super.
Oh, super. Not the charge he's looking for. Nomi dies as well. Train with the equalizer. Suddenly, 5v5. Both Zaryas boosted up. This is a mirror in more ways than one right now. But here's a Graviton by Bull. Hype does not have a Graviton on his own. 3 people in that vortex of death. Train is there with the fall through. And Hammers taking it to Immortals here. Pushing them back, Hex. 5 seconds remaining. And now the question is, will again the point? They are contesting it, but Jake coming in from the back line, has Dragon Blade about to be ready, and this could be the finisher. Diving in, that's it. Hammers taking the series 3-1 with an epic hold here on King's Row.
0-3.
Well, Hammers can play a little bit of defense. Very good there. Jake had great plays, and despite Super being super aggressive at times, it's their style. It paid off on the offense, especially when they were able to charge in and get a kill. And just like over the weekends, Pumpkins not safe anywhere.
Jake has killed far less pumpkins than Nico did, though. Let's just be fair. Nico needed an entire farm. But speaking of farm, Jake finding a way of farming into Immortals there at the very end. Dirty stuff, a great initiation, although he did get stunned in the middle of that, so I do wonder if there's a window where they could have taken him out in the middle of that.
Yeah, Jake, I love seeing him on this Genji, and you know, they try a few other things, but you gotta just go back to what you love, what's been working, and it worked in this case. Immortals tried to fight back, and they had some great showings, but they did fall in this best of 5 series. And Hammers are I don't want to say they're looking unbeatable because they've had a few weak points, but so far they have been yet to be beaten.
Well, to that point, when you look back at recent tournaments like the Overwatch Monthly Melee, they were also the only team to give Rogue a semblance of a fight, taking a map and otherwise. So there's multiple sources of information right now indicating that Hammers might be one of the very top teams in North America, and arguably, if you look at the standings here and look at everything else, the top team in the OCS right now.
It is hard to argue against that. Let's take a look a little bit closer at King's Row. I mean, Grim fell early on in a charge, and it was honestly a little funny because like everyone else ran out of the way, And I don't know if it was almost like Grimm just didn't see it coming, and then everyone else, and then he just got charged in. And then Train got an early pick, and it was a very, very fast first push. And then from there, they just kept going. But also, Grimm, by the way, died or was slept in the first 3 lost battles that they lost on Kings Row.
He's always the top priority, but I do want to give focus to Train as well, who anyone who was even a step out of place was getting hooked every time. His hook accuracy was off the charts, and then just the consistent damage. I also liked how they were really prioritizing the shield battle. It's not something foreign to them. They have run 4 tank for a long time. They know that if you get that shield down, they can start getting picks, and that's not only for their backline, but that's to open things up for Train. And Vol was focusing entirely on the shield early on in that defense.
And I'm glad you mentioned Vol there too, because I think Vol, he's had periods where we go, he's not doing as much damage. He had a great series, especially towards the end of Kings. High production, and Kings in general, I feel like they got production from everyone in the Hammer squad. Super, who was having a rough series, had some great Earth Shatters towards the end, and Immortals did feel a little bit disheveled as well, where they're making some mistakes. I think back to their Kings Row defense on last, where maybe the Bastion Gambit could have worked. We'll never know because they fed 2 pickoffs without making Hammers use ultimates. So Immortals definitely got a little bit sloppier as the night went on, I feel like.
I honestly wanted to see that Bastion in a more of a sterile environment, because I think he was using it a little bit more how we maybe expected it to be used. He was not getting 100% protection. He was moving around the battlefield a little bit more and relying on maybe one healer being nearby. And then as soon as there was a couple picks, went back to base, switched off on a Tracer to try to delay things out, and we all know how that worked out. Well, I did learn a few things from this. Actually, I took some notes for the catering at the end of this event. I know we're going to have blue drink and grilled cheese. I don't know if the grilled cheese is going to quite match up, but I did learn that. But I really also learned that the Jake Train combo, they're really solidifying in my mind as one of the strongest damage combos as far as consistency and versatility in the OCS and potentially even in North America.
To go toe-to-toe with Immortals DPS combo and come out on top is no small task, because for a long time coming into this tournament, I thought Grimm and Agilities were the highest of tier. Jake and Train making a case.
My question actually in watching this, because you talk about people going back to their comfort picks, and well, right now, Jake going back to Genji, that's a very strong pick, but McCree not looking as strong. And is that maybe a struggle here for Immortals?
It's hard to say. It doesn't feel like Immortals has had confidence in their McCree, which is strange given what they did back in the Winter Premier Finals with Grimm having an amazing time. You do get into a bit of a death spiral where you're not running a hero as often, and then when you do run the hero, you don't be effective with him, so you run the hero even less. I would like to see them commit to the McCree a little bit more, but I think for Immortals, that's a lesser issue than some of the other things we saw tonight.
Yeah, that puts them into a rough spot, though. They're now 1-2. They're going to have another shot tomorrow to try to bring it back. Let's actually talk a little bit about the standings. Hammers right now 4-0 at the end of their Week 2 run. They don't have any more games this week. Clearly on top of the pack. Renegades, who started off the event 2-0, found their first loss to Complexity, who is now at in that 3rd place spot at 2-2. Immortals and Luminosity, actually Luminosity, they've beat Immortals, and so in the head-to-head they're actually ahead, but they're both tied at 1-2. And then Team Liquid still struggling to find themselves. We saw some glimmers of hope from them today, but they're going to need to show us more coming into the following weeks. Well, let's actually take a look then at the final 2 matches for this week. It's going to be Renegades versus Luminosity Gaming tomorrow at 5 p.m. PST, and then Liquid versus Immortals. So everyone's going to want to come back for those. Should be some exciting games. And then, of course, the 2 matches that we saw tonight, Complexity finding victory against Liquid, and Hammers continuing their reign of terror in their victory against Immortals. Do you have any final thoughts looking at this schedule before we close out the stream?
I just want to go back on tonight, because I've been a vocal critic of Complexity for a long time, and I think justly so, and fair in my criticism, but don't sleep on this team. They started out 2-0, or 0-2, now 2-2. They're up and coming. I don't know if they can contest with the top teams right now, but they look like they're getting better and better.
Immortals, I think, is a bit on notice right now because they came in as the favorites, and now in the middle of week 2, they are 1-2. It makes the matchup that they're playing tomorrow a must-win. If they lose it, it is panic time for Immortals, and not where you want to be when you come into a tournament as a front runner.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the OCS is all about adaptation and improving and trying to show why your team and your organization deserves that spot in the ever-coveted Overwatch League. So all of these teams are trying to pull it together. A few have started to show their worth, but I know that a lot of things are going to continue to shake up as we continue, and we are going to be continuing tomorrow night. Please join us once again there. And if you haven't been already, make sure you're following us on Twitter. We're going to have some nice highlight videos, a lot of cool content that you can consume on there, and of course updates as well. And follow us on our website. Our website is kind of the hub where all of the information lives. We're going to have the schedule, standings, bios on the teams, as well as rosters and other pieces of information for your edification. And then finally follow us here on Twitch so that you can see all the action as it unfolds Monday through Wednesday. We're halfway done with, over halfway done, math is hard, with week number 2. We're going to close it out tomorrow night. But thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Made them run way far back from the front spawn camping. And Jake definitely took a moment to get through this, but of course, perhaps one of the best ones.
Or it doesn't work. Swing the blade, and we're back in.
Well, we are back in and hype, pulling in 4 members of Hammers, and what for Immortals to come back and win. So let's get to Hammers opportunity here, but Jake falls to the field. A nice flank setup. The Graviton is in from Hammers. They pull in from there, but the Earth Shatter